Hey, no joke whatsoever. It's cold outside.
Yes.
I'm not. This is
Big if true.
Some people are like, well, you know what? School's out again. This is like the coldest morning in this polar vortex that we are in. I got to experience it twice at 1 a.m. this morning.
That'll wake you up.
Arriving back at Baxter Arena and then walking from my car into the studio. It's cold. I heard we set a record.
Really?
12 below?
And currently 14 below, so it continues to drop.
So this is like the coldest morning. Now remember, we have a shorts alert. We're gonna have some thawing. We're gonna have some melting. We're gonna be wearing shorts on Tuesday.
Excited.
We're gonna be smoking cigars on Tuesday. I mean, I will be smoking a cigar on Tuesday in celebration.
Okay, I like that. Is that going to become your normal celebration?
It's always been my normal celebration. If you are a good friend of mine, you know that when something good happens in my life, I've smoked a cigar quite often.
Well, I like that.
It's like
idea.
an episode of Boston Legal. Remember that
there
show?
are multiple sporting
That was
events,
a long
and
time ago.
there are multiple sporting events in my lifetime since I've been old enough to smoke a cigar. That when a good result happens, we go, hey, we're going to cigars. We go and we smoke a cigar. So that'll be due for a celebration on Tuesday when we're done with this cold BS.
All right. It is bitterly cold outside. There's a lot of you that do not have school. There's a lot of you that are not working today. I saw weird. So I just came back from Kansas City where they are closed for their fourth straight day.
Jeez.
Like they haven't gone to school all week down in Kansas City where they have more snow than we have here. And it was bitterly cold yesterday. But UNL isn't starting until 11 a.m. I've never seen that before.
Come on.
Usually you just bang it.
You guys went to school,
or
right?
you go to school. They're not starting until 11 a.m. in Lincoln.
We did that. We did that
Like an
in
11 a.m.
grade
game.
school, where it's like we didn't go until later, so we could clean everything up, so they could like defrost the roads and like get more
That
snow
makes
off
sense.
the ground before we went. But what does 11 a.m. do? Like, how much warmer is it out at 11? It's still bitterly cold.
Well, kickoff's usually about 11:05, and no, sorry.
I got a text from a friend yesterday who we like to talk about the weather together.
Yeah,
You
got a weather buddy.
You know that you're old and you live in the Midwest when you get into a texting conversation about the weather. He told me, he goes, "You can use this on the air," and I said, "You know what? I will."
Go ahead.
We've not been above freezing since Friday in Omaha.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is fun to complain about our 2-week winter here.
Yeah.
I know people are like, that's great. Go after Mother Nature. Go get her.
Grr.
You know what? Mother Nature, if only Nebraska basketball had as much aggressiveness as Mother Nature has in the last week,
And there
it'd be
it
a
is.
whole different conversation. I know I had to tie it into.
No, I mean,
I had
don't
to tie
blame
it
you.
into. So yeah, we haven't been above freezing since Friday, but it's coming. It's coming.
Mother Nature.
Tuesday shorts, car wash alert. I might even buy a car wash.
Oh, I'm getting one.
No, I might buy a car wash.
Oh, you might buy.
I might buy a
you
car
like
wash.
Invest in one.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It appears to be a money maker coming up next week.
What would your car wash be called? What would you call your car wash?
I'm not sure. I would.
Rolls Royce.
It'd have to be something unique.
Yeah.
Like we got Rocket, we got a speeder in this town.
Yeah.
Mine would be. It'd have to be something that would like take the attention away from the money that I'm going to launder through my car wash.
Sure. Sharp cleaning.
See, I would open.
Sharp cleaning car wash.
I don't want my name on it.
You don't want your name
I don't
on
want
it?
things attached to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to get my hands dirty. I got
Big master cleaning car wash is what you'll call it.
Boom.
We'll get a tax come back.
Yes. See, this town.
I'll probably still get taxes back.
This town, you can make a lot of money by owning car washes and nail salons, and then get a scooters.
Yes.
I will have the whole market of Omaha cornered.
You should just buy Omaha. That's what I think.
Do you?
You go on Shark Tank.
Do you? We're 40 days away from a mayoral election that's going to get nasty. Do I want to buy Omaha?
Yeah.
I don't know. That streetcar might go.
Seriously, Odson.
We're getting a streetcar here. Did you know
that? No.
Yeah, it's going to go by your place.
No.
He didn't know.
It was close.
I wouldn't know.
No.
I'm telling you something right now. Jimmy can say anything about this city to me, and I'd be like, okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So out the window here is a thing called Dodge.
Okay. Cool.
Dodge runs a long way, right down the middle of the city.
I do know
It's
that.
almost
I do
pothole
know.
season.
I'm aware of that. If I know anything about Omaha,
So
I know Dodge.
we'll try and have some warm thoughts. I'll give you. You wanna warm up this morning?
Can you? Yes.
It's true. We all do.
You're gonna have to deal with me. I'm on limited sleep.
No, it's great. This is great. You're
today-
this is hay fever-ish Gary Sharp here?
Oh, I'm here
Or
for
cabin
this.
fever-ish?
Hay
Cabin
fever?
Cabin fever. Cabin fever.
Hay fever?
Cabin fever.
Hay fever?
I got you know me. I get sayings wrong all the time, and you just have to kind of roll with it, all right? And then like we'll adjust and we'll go along, and it probably will happen again, but it
Make
won't
like a
happen
tree
third
and get
time.
out of here.
Wasn't that great that Ron Say successfully, was able to field that ground ball at the Game 7 of the World Series?
Yes.
Yes. But speaking of the Cubs, today we have spring training baseball.
Right here,
Cubs-
baby.
Cubs-
right here.
Cubs and the Dodgers play today.
Cactus
Oh.
League.
Ooh, NLCS preview.
I've never been more
Hey,
excited
I
since
would-
2016 about a Cubs season.
I'm a little wait and see. I still don't like the inability to chase some pitching in the offseason.
I agree.
So
agree.
I'm
There
always
are
excited for the
flaws
Cubs.
to the roster. There are flaws to the roster. But when they won in 2016, and I think some fans can understand this, when they won in 2016, it was like a weight was taken off of your back. And you're like, oh my God, like, thank
Especially
God.
you waited a long time.
So long.
know.
I waited my whole
So
life.
long.
I waited my whole life for that to happen. And I was like, you know what? Like the next couple seasons after that, like I was in it. Don't get me wrong. Like I
Yeah.
wanted them to win, and I was banging on the drum. But I was like, it wasn't the same. Like I
I see.
wasn't like grabbing for it. I wasn't like, oh my God. I wasn't like looking at the box score every day, being like, oh my God, how did Chris do? Like this year is going to be that. Like I'm back in it. I'm back there.
All you need to know is I say Leon Durham, we get nothing here, and you and Bishop are like, I got to take a few minutes.
Hey, 1984, friggin' Steve Garvey. I actually confronted Steve Garvey one time. I'm like, you know what? You didn't have to be a dickhead for running around the bases after the home run at Jack Murphy with your arm raised in the air.
You could have just been happy.
You know what? Hey, and if the bull fields that ground ball,
it's over.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
over.
Does this look like a Detroit Lions hat a little bit to you?
No.
I mean, the first day, but now I know it is
People
Cubs.
have told me that
that
they
looks like a
think-
bear.
I know, but multiple
That's the
people.
cubby bear.
I know. But multiple people, like not only just on the stream, but also like in person, have said it looks like the Lions hat.
Do,
like they
do
think
those
it's a
people
Lions
need
hat.
a trip to Cougar Vision to fix their eyes?
Maybe.
Because that does not look like a lion.
I know.
That is
You have
is
to look at
clearly-
it super
that is
fast.
I
clearly
appreciate
a bear.
Captain though. Like Captain is interacting in the chat, but he goes, "It looks like it looks like the Detroit Lions. It looks like the Bears
No.
or the Cubs."
No, Captain is better than that.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Captain's one of our best.
That's clearly a bear. Look at the front of their face. That is not a lion. A lion and a bear don't look alike.
They don't look anything like. That's why they say
Yeah.
lions, tigers, and bears, because it's not like you're looking at them and you're like, oh, that's a lion and a lion and a lion.
Yeah, and only one of them is going to raise your season ticket price.
Jimmy, I thought you would laugh at that. That was a good one.
I did. Rough night sleeping. Just still trying to process that excrement I watched last night. I've been watching a lot of bad basketball lately.
You mean the Charlotte Hornets at plus 560 winning
Seriously.
in LA against the Lakers? Is that what you're talking
Well,
about?
to be honest, an angel does get his wings when the Lakers lose, so it is a beautiful
Yeah.
day.
How about that, Luka? Boy, he's been great in the 3 games that he's played for the Lakers. All right, let's get to it.
Yeah. We've been beating around the bush.
So
Rip the Band-Aid.
you get to have a good day today if you're a basketball team that either you call the games for, one, Omaha, which is, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but they're in first place right now.
Hey.
It was a big night. It was a little chaotic at the top of the Summer League standings, but we got some help. North Dakota State, South Dakota, which will be here on Saturday night, helped the Mavs. The Mavs controlled the game in Kansas City basically the entire game. They were up by as many as 17, and then, ended up winning by 12, but it was, for the most part, it was 13-17 the entire second half.
Markel's son had a great game, so shout out Markel.
He did. J.J. White, though, was the key guy. J.J. White is a dude. I don't know if Omaha will be able to hold on to J.J. White because he'll have an extra year because he's a junior college guy along with Markel Sutton. But J.J. White is what he has done this year is amazing. And so Omaha is in first place with 2 games to go in the Summit. Creighton and St. John's played a back-and-forth women's game at Sokol last night. Creighton came out on top. They won 13-14. They're 14-1 in the Big East. And then, as I was following along, because, I just didn't have an interest in watching at midnight on a bus coming back up 29, Rutgers in Washington. I was catching up. I watched the Nebraska-Penn State game while I was getting ready for our game because we started an hour and a half afterwards. So I watched the Nebraska men's game. The women's game I caught up on. That was a hell of a performance by Alexa Markowski. And Nebraska
She's good.
rallied. They were down 14, won a huge game at home against Oregon. So if your basketball team won last night, good to you. But I was thinking about the discussion we were going to have about the EKGers. And sorry, Fred, I know that you've got a ticker and you're on blood thinners and you can't get emotional. I rewind the tape to what we talked about on Monday about this basketball team, that maybe Fred doesn't like this team. This team is the one sports team at Nebraska where the game begins and you love them, and then the first media timeout comes and you hate them, and then the last media timeout of the game comes and you're right back in it. You ride the roller coaster as a Nebraska basketball fan that is as tortured can be, and last night was another edition on how can we just the fan base in watching this team play as they got completely embarrassed. They got outclassed. And they got beat by a team that had lost 7 in a row. And my dream. Remember my dream?
I remember your dream.
I woke up and I said, God, is Nebraska going to lose to Penn State? The atmosphere will be garbage.
And it was worse
They've
than
lost
that.
7 straight. They don't play well there.
You dreamed a dream of time gone by and a basketball season worth rooting for.
Ooh. The only saving grace from last night, because that's bad. That's a bad loss.
Yeah.
Is the bubble is atrocious. And so that's really the only thing that saves Nebraska right now from that loss being just a season ender. But man, bad from start to finish. And everybody is at fault here. One thing I won't do this morning, and if you want to go there, that's fine. You're my partner. I'm not going to play the game that Hoiberg should be fired. I know that's popular after a game like that. Hoiberg's not getting fired. Okay. He's got to look in the mirror. He didn't have his team prepared to play. His team was not ready to play. His team thought they were something that they're not, and they took Penn State for granted. And once they didn't punch Penn State early and Penn State had a fighter's chance, that game was over. But I don't want to do Fred's got to go, the inconsistency. You know what? They kind of are. They are who they are every single game. And sometimes you get lucky, like Sunday. Sometimes you get your pants pulled down, like you did last night against Penn State.
Out, like the phrase I think of my head is out everything. They got out rebound, out hustled, outshot, outplayed, out everything. There was no, like you said, no saving grace of any part of that performance. There was no silver lining. There was no, at least this happened, or at least no, they got their butts whooped, plain and simple. And it's incredible to me how you can turn on the tape of this team's best game and be like, wow, this is a team that maybe can make the Sweet 16. Seriously. Like if you put on their best game,
really?
their best game, their best game, their best performance, you're like, man, like this team moves, this team is in tune with itself. It's good on defense. Hey, they have 2 guys who can get to the bucket whenever they want. They're aggressive. They don't have enough spacing, which is their hindrance, but at least they got some resemblance of athleticism on the offensive end. Okay. They have a good enough coach who can rotate these guys in a way where it's like, okay, yeah, we're not looking at Elite 8 or Final 4 or anything like that, but this is a team where, hey, if they catch a number 1 seed or a number 2 seed on a bad night, they can get them. And then on their worst game, you go, oh, this team couldn't even play in the NIT. This team, I don't even think could win a mid-major conference. This team has no passion. This team has no drive. This team has alphas who don't want to be an alpha, who don't want to get to the rim. And everyone complaining yesterday about the whole, hey, they weren't getting fouls, and Penn State has shot way more free throws. And there's a discrepancy here between, hey, if you want to shoot free throws, how about you go to the basket?
Thank you.
How about you actually be aggressive? If you want to get calls, how about you just don't stand and just move the ball around and then take a bad 3-point shot? How about you actually have movements going toward the rim? I told Jimmy before you got here that I didn't want to get fired up about this game because it's not worth me getting fired up and it's not worth the breath, but it is embarrassing. And you're getting to the point of the season where we are all like
ready for baseball.
Every team is kind of looking.
No. This season's not over.
Every
That's
team,
true.
Every team
we do
is
got
kind
the
of
Mavericks
looking at, all right, where are we? Like, what is the ceiling? Like, what can we do? And you have teams who are like, all right, we want to win a national championship. You have teams that are like, we can make a really, really deep run. You have teams that are like, hey, we're not the best, but man, if we get hot, we can do something because we have pieces there. I don't think Nebraska falls in any 3 of those categories. And so now you're just sitting here and you're like, is this team just two in a barbecue?
Wasn't last night normal for Nebraska
That's a
basketball?
good point.
In State College, for sure.
No,
yeah.
not State College,
But in
But
general,
I don't
Nebraska,
think,
Nebraska basketball.
I don't think it was. I don't think yesterday was normal. I don't think yesterday was
Why?
normal.
You just said they got no alpha. They don't have. Here's the thing. They have on the road. They get off to slow starts. That's been a prevalent theme, and sometimes they just get blown out from East Lansing to State College. But it's 5 straight games they trailed at halftime. They had no flow beginning of the game. Now, Bryce and Andrew Morgan get into early foul trouble. The vibe completely changed, and Penn State saw an opening again. I think Nebraska took Penn State very lightly. They knew, and you know that Fred preached to them, hey, Penn State's lost 7 in a row. They got no life, but you know what?
They hadn't won a
They're
game
at
since
home.
January
I know.
2nd.
I know they have no life. The place is going to be a little bit dead. We got to bring it. Well, you know what? You bring it when you have leadership, and usually that leadership was with somebody that plays point guard that can get everybody in the right space and realizes who's hot, who's not, and can feed them. Nebraska has no leadership on the floor, and especially at that position, let alone the way that position is played. But I asked the question. So last night sucks. They got beat 89-72. Thank God. Hey, bless the holy bubble out there. I don't know. I don't know what kind of cloth they wear. I don't know what kind of collar they wear. They might.
I don't know what color the season is.
Nope. But you know what? Bless the holy bubble, because the bubble is not very good, and this didn't knock Nebraska out of the tournament. They're probably now locked in around a 10 seed, and instead of needing another win to essentially lock yourself in for the NCAA tournament, they got to go find 2, and you got 3 of the next 4 at home. You got to wash this quickly. But almost as I think about the game last night and the kind of team Nebraska is this year, that was almost normal. Is anybody just shocked? Can anybody this morning tell me that they're shocked?
No, I'm
shocked
not.
that Nebraska played like that. Now, because they began the game as an underdog, right?
Yes, they were a 1-point underdog heading into the game.
Now, I know 1 point, but still.
No,
you get
the
the premise of Vegas wasn't saying, hey, all right, this is a huge discrepancy. So I'm not making excuses, because there is no excuse for what you get. And you never want to tug on basketball karma's cape, because you know what? They're going to take that cape and they're just going to bury you. And Nebraska got what they deserved last night. They were not prepared from the jump. They played a team that, you know what, had more effort than them, that should not this time of the year with what's at stake.
No.
And they got what they deserved.
Like 3-12 in the league.
The lovely thing about competition is you can wash it, and you've got a golden opportunity at home against Michigan on Monday night. But between now and Monday, man, it's going to be exhausting to talk about Nebraska basketball.
Oh, my God. And also, too, so yesterday, Jimmy and I had a really good conversation about this game. And you talk about your dream on Monday. Jimmy and I were lockstep in the fact that we were off. We were just off. This game was off. There was something weird about the game. There's something we didn't like. I went on Twitter at 2:30, 3 hours before tip, and I tweeted out, I have a bad feeling about tonight. Okay, it was just one of those things where you had the bad feeling, but at the same time, you say,
at least it was 5:30.
Isn't this normal for Nebraska basketball? Maybe in how it happened with the poor point guard play and the slow start, and at some point you're saying, all right, we're going to need like one hell of a run and one of these guys who hasn't been playing well all game to step up and like come into the light and like lead us to victory. That's happened multiple times, but there's nothing normal about losing to a team that hasn't won a game in a month and a half. There's nothing normal about losing to a team who has lost 11 of their last 12. There's nothing normal about getting outplayed by a team who's not even trying to get to the NIT. Penn State doesn't even have an NIT resume. They're done. They got nothing going for them. And they got outplayed, out-hustled, out everything yesterday. There's nothing normal about that.
I'm not surprised.
I'm only surprised they didn't make a true run in the second half.
I'm not surprised, because this is who Nebraska basketball is this year, and that's who they are out at Penn State. A team that has better leadership doesn't let this happen. That they're like, okay, I can sense we got a little bit of a letdown. Now, there's another part of me. They have now come back. They get 3 of their last 4 at home, so that's kind of a saving grace here. I almost wish that when they got done on Sunday in Evanston, they would have come back to Lincoln.
KP said that
I saw some of those. So, okay, let's have this convo.
So, because I think, and they did it when they were on the West Coast, which made more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You practice on Monday in Chicago, and then you fly to State College. So you have a couple of days where you're just kind of you're laying around, you're watching The View, you're watching Young and the Restless, which for the first time in a long time I watched yesterday, everybody is still the same.
Nice.
Jack is still on there. Jack Abbott.
Nice.
But if you, let's say, and there's no excuses here, you get what you deserve in the game of sports. If you don't have time to sit around and you fly home and you're in your own bed a Sunday night and a Monday night, and then you fly, and it's not an easy trip into State College, there's a little bit of a sense of urgency. You haven't had time to just kind of sit around and watch TV
You're moving.
and talk about this game a lot. Now, would it have changed it? I don't know. It didn't seem like this team was ready to play, which if you think, okay, we're doing the schedule for this reason, you would be ready to go from the jump?
I would almost agree with you if they got off to a rough start and then they picked it up towards the end and it was an actually competitive basketball game and it came down to the last couple of possessions and Penn State just took it away and we were to look back and be like, well, if they didn't get off to that tough start, they probably would have won the game. I'd be right there with you if that was the case. With how they played yesterday, I don't think sleeping in your own bed solves that problem. I don't think
they
going
were very
back
comfortable
home,
yesterday.
I know what you're saying, and you have great like you have the resume to say that because man, you travel with a basketball team and you understand the nuances and intricacies of what goes in to how travel can affect a team and how they can play. I get that. I'm right there with you. At the same time, this wasn't a performance where we can just be like, well, if they went home and they slept in their own beds, like they would have been better. Maybe they would have started off better, but like they just played so bad for so long where I just don't think there's anything on the outside. I don't think there's any external factor that went into them just playing terrible 40 minutes of basketball. It was just so bad where I'm like, it has nothing to do with what happened before he got on the court. Everything to do with what happened on the court. What happened on the court was an atrocity. It was an absolute atrocity.
What I hear is Nebraska and Kansas would be a 7-game series.
Oh,
that's another thing we talked about yesterday.
Listening to Sports Talk in Kansas City yesterday.
Oh.
And then on the heels of what Mizzou did last night, to miss 16 free throws and still put up 110 on number 4 Alabama. Come on now.
I'm sure Carrington was a little bit off the.
So we could just rewind the conversation about Nebraska basketball from Monday. And I brought up the point, does Fred like this team?
No.
So I got to tell you a quick story here. I was hoping to tell this story where it would be bigger because they won the game last night. Talking to an assistant with Nebraska. There is a lot more to what happened at halftime against Northwestern. Because Fred has been kind of mild-mannered all season long. And I was told that they had never, ever, since they've been working with Fred, ever seen the kind of emotion that he had at halftime on Sunday. Never. Like just the whole room went silent. And so I wonder what that room was like at halftime when you're down 50-27 and Penn State is making every shot. You're getting crushed in the paint. You're giving up rebounds. Was it quiet? Were people like resigned to, we went 1-1, coach. We at least got one victory. Let's fly home, man. I can't wait to sleep in my own bed, and I can't wait to play Michigan for a stripe out. Phew. I wonder what that was like, because I think Fred is this, and whether this is your team, Fred's your head coach, you're just trying to push it to the finish line to get into the dance and then roll the dice to win a game and then start trying to figure out this just very interesting offseason from money to portal to a lot of spots available. So I bring up that question again. Does Fred like this team? But he also has to own it because he's the one that constructed this team that has got a point guard who they need a different point guard next year.
Yeah. And you can say that again.
It would help immensely. Again, back to the leadership part. When you feel that your team is slow out of the gate, okay, and maybe a call or two early in the game is going against you, but they tell you that's how it's going to be officiated. But some of your bigger names got fouls, and then all of a sudden one of your starters is out of the game. That's where a great point guard like Sam Griesel was fantastic for this program.
Yeah.
Because Sam would not he would pull the parking brake. Now, doesn't mean that Nebraska would win, but a point guard that realizes he's the general on the floor, gets everybody, you know what? Pick your friggin' head up, okay? Because the body language initially was, da-da-da-da-da, we're playing Penn State, okay. I can hear the guy up in the upper level when he gets into his malt cup. I can hear the wooden spoon, scrape against the side.
I can hear the grandma in the 300 level chewing
Yeah.
out her popcorn.
Hey,
turn the ball over. Hey, here's a ball for you. Here's a turnover
We are.
for you. Here's
Penn
a bad
State.
shot for you.
Sean Morris, how you doing?
Let's throw it in the paint.
Okay.
Oops, they're going the other way.
But that's kind of what Nebraska's body language was. So you have a good point guard, a leader on the floor that says, guys, buck up. All right? This is not what we're doing tonight. They're so out of sync, but I just keep going back to that's just Nebraska basketball is who Nebraska ball is.
So
okay, you ride you go the roller coaster, you go, and then sometimes it crashes, and then sometimes it gives you one of those moments where you put your hands in the air and you go, whee! Last night was not one of those nights.
we talk about leadership. Do you know who, in my opinion, is one of the guys that Fred Hoiberg talks about the most with leadership on this team?
His son?
I was going to say
None of
Sam.
None of them.
Damn.
He doesn't
Poor
he
Sam.
just doesn't.
Yeah, Sam.
He had a terrible game.
Sam's
Everybody.
Sam's basketball IQ was about as good as the temperature outside right now, which is minus 14.
He played 13 minutes and had one foul yesterday. We're talking about a guy who's been pretty consistently playing 35 minutes a game. That just goes to show you how his outing was yesterday. But he doesn't really talk a ton about leadership on this team. Now, you cannot say, well, Matt, Fred doesn't really talk about who the leaders are in the team. That's incorrect, because you know what? When Emmanuel Bandamel was playing for Nebraska basketball, and even this year, multiple times, Fred Hoiberg has brought up Emmanuel Bandamel and the fact that how great of a leader he was and how he set the culture and how there are people who truly believe that the Fred Hoiberg era changed because of one guy you talked about, Sam Griesel, and Manny Bando just being in that locker room and rallying the troops and like being like, hey, we're going to be a defensive team. Hey, we're going to be a hard-nosed team. Hey, we're going to be, this is how we're going to win games. And it almost taught the guys who were in that locker room, this is how you can win, because they had already done it where they were previously. They don't have that. They don't have a point guard. They don't have a leader. And you know what? You can flip a coin to find out every single day if they have an alpha, because there are some nights where, man, Bryce Williams looks like a Big Ten player of the year. And there are other nights where he looks like Zach LaVine, and it's just empty calories. It's just like you look at the box score and you're like, oh, 17 points and 7 rebounds and 4 assists like this Bryce Williams. It did nothing to affect the outcome of the game. He did nothing to affect a positive outcome yesterday for Nebraska. And that's just not a Bryce thing. That's everybody on that team.
They
did nothing.
They had it coming to them. They showed it right away. I mean, Bryce getting 3 fouls didn't help. But I don't know what would have
Andrew
helped.
Morgan had 2 fouls in the first minute and a half of the game.
I don't know what would have helped. Penn State came out aggressive and they punked Nebraska. Nebraska didn't respond, and that's a lot of it has to do with effort. So you have to own it. But you know what? Again, the bubble is not bubblicious. It is actually kind of stale gum. And you know what? So you can keep chewing on the stale gum, and it did not kick Nebraska out of a cut line. But you have a golden opportunity on Monday against Michigan. But you got to get your head right. And you can't rely on the fact that you're coming home and PBA is going to bail you out for 3 of the next 4. You got to do it yourself. And you have to find a way to get in the NCAA tournament.
They already did that, and they got burnt.
You got to give them a
They
reason.
got burned 2 times this year, thinking that, we're going to come home and PBA is going to be on
fire. It
fire.
just kind of adds to this conversation about leadership.
At 9 minutes and 30 seconds in the first half, this is how I knew the game was over. This was the lineup.
Wait, you lasted that long?
Okay, 9 minutes and 30 seconds go in the first half. I knew that this game was over when they had Braxton Mia, Raleigh Wooster, Aaron Eulis, Connor Esigian, and Jawan Gary as a lineup out there. Yeah. Good Lord.
That is like when the Spurs used to start.
Do you know
who came in after that?
You constructed the roster, so you make it work.
And then Gavin Griffiths came in after that.
You know the only person that liked this trip to Evanston and State College? Gavin, because he got to play.
Oh. I was going to say probably Braden Frager and Cale Jacobson because free catering is also nice.
Wow.
Hmm.
Harsh. Would you want him? Do you
No,
you
I'm
want
not
Fred to
getting-
kick him out of the locker room as well?
I'm not, but I'm saying. I mean, they got a nice
Like Billy
they got-
Bob, just
and
tell him to go home
I
by
hear
himself.
I hear Chicago looks really nice at this time of the year. You know,
I don't think
Looks
people were
like this.
surprised what happened to Nebraska last night if you were on the Nebraska basketball team. If you're a coach,
really.
Mm.
I think just look at the body language at the beginning of the game.
What an indictment on that culture.
Well, they're a game.
I mean, that's
they're-
that is
Well,
that
not
is
an
that's a
indictment on the
major.
culture. It's an
Yeah.
indictment on this particular team that lives game to game. Okay, their culture is
Which-
night and day what it used to be. But
Sure.
this team is game to game, and you don't know what you're going to get. And as a coach, that is the worst feeling. Okay, because you look and you have dudes, and some nights, like you were alluding to, you look great.
You look awesome.
And then other nights, you get beat 89-72 at Penn State, who had lost 7 in a row, was at the bottom of the Big Ten. And you know what? They might have just jumped over Washington because Washington is bad. Got beaten overtime by Rutgers last night.
Do you think their inconsistencies is more of a skill issue than it is a culture issue?
They are not. I've
I know.
preached on it.
I know.
Bad basketball IQ. They're slow in prodding. I think it's more of the roster construction because at times it just does not fit together. It doesn't. I don't want to play the game. Well, if Rink was playing, if they still had no, we're way past that. We're well too far into the season, and they're still in the NCAA tournament discussion.
Yeah.
It just that looks bad last night if you're trying to invest in Nebraska basketball. Because if you're trying to invest in Nebraska basketball, you are talking to your cardiologist today saying, can I do this much longer? And your cardiologist is like, you know what? Hey, you're getting up there in age. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but you might pick and choose the games that you watch. It's just it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's Nebraska basketball. If you've been a fan for a long time, it's the most tortured fan base that follows a sport at UNL.
I don't disagree with you in the poor basketball IQ and the questionable roster construction and the obvious lack of depth that is on this team, especially when there are injuries or foul trouble. But the fluctuation between this team's highest high and this team's lowest low is so few and far between. Like it is so long. Like the floor of how bad they play to the ceiling of how great they play is so high, it's so long, it's so far apart that I have to point at culture as a bit of a problem because there's no other way to explain how a team can be that bad and that good in 1 year other than, poor roster construction and lack of talent, lack of depth, but also just having a not great mindset going into certain games.
That's where we're going to disagree because if your culture is garbage, don't you roll over and play dead on Sunday?
But I don't think I'm not calling it garbage. I didn't say it was garbage, but I do think at times they're I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's together. I don't think it's fully knitted. I think it's a factor. I don't think it's fully on the skill of this team and the makeup of this team. I do think that there are times where they walk into games that are like, oh, well, we had a great comeback and we picked up our win on the road trip. And you know what? We're going to go back home and, we're probably in the tournament anyway. And let's just go and beat this team that hasn't won since January.
I think if you're talented, you don't have to worry about game to game.
But I think if you're cultured, you don't have bad mindsets and that bad of a starts playing that bad of a team.
All right. Coming up a little bit later, we know Brian Edwards will join us. He's been red hot with the NBA. The NBA is back. Last night, the NBA decided to put LeBron in the middle of the week against Charlotte.
Yeah.
And Charlotte won.
They did win. LeBron, though,
Larry Johnson.
LeBron,
look at Giddy Jimmy over
Del
there.
Curry.
The LeBron at the age of 40, though, did have a hell of a dunk. But that was about the only thing that went well. And he missed a 3 to tie the game at the end.
What he does.
Lots more. There's a lot of people have thoughts. After a Nebraska basketball performance like last night, we get to read Zach emails.
Oh, my God.
How many were they?
We will do that.
They were great.
Also, it is Big Hockey Day. Red, white, and blue. The 4 nations final tonight against USA and Canada in Boston.
Oh, my God. They got it. They
Yes.
got it.
All right, we'll get into all that as we roll till 10. It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on a Thursday morning. Put the temp on the screen, Channel 6.
Do it, you cowards.
It was minus 14. A lot of schools are out again today, and wisely, because it's if you don't have to be out, don't get out until it warms up a little bit.
So
Also,
are they just going to push summer back like another week? Like summer's just going to happen in a week?
Oh, school. I
week
thought you
later?
meant the season.
You mean school or the actual calendar?
They're gonna push the school back a week. So summer
they have a
will
little
start.
buffer. They have a
Do
little
they?
buffer in there. You got some remote learning.
We haven't had any winter yet, so they're kind of just using up their days now. We should be good.
Oh, well, good for them.
We're on our way back.
We're in the dog days of the sports calendar, but we have 4 Nations tonight, and spring training baseball begins today. Also, welcome to all of the outstaters that are in Omaha. They've been here for a couple of days. If you're there for the girls' state wrestling, now the boys begin. So it'll be just pandemonium down by the chai.
If you're driving slow, please stay to the other 2 lanes. Stay out of the left lane.
Also, good luck to the prom dress places.
Yeah.
People come to Omaha to buy a prom dress.
Shout out to my niece.
Or they wait until next month when basketball is in Lincoln, and maybe the prom dresses are cheaper in Lincoln. I don't know. I've never bought a prom dress.
Neither have I. I never even bought a prom suit because I didn't have a prom.
COVID?
I went to an all-boys school.
No, not true. We had a prom.
With
okay?
other boys?
Nope.
With another boys' school?
We had a sister school. We had a
Milkshake.
school, Regina Dominican.
Oh, of course.
Who we, partnered up with, and there was Rez, and there was other,
You seen her,
Loyola.
man? Graduated from school and started to have a family.
Mm.
She got 3 kids, and she just turned 21.
You're dancing.
Good on her.
Put a
Who?
balloon between the 2.
Regina.
George?
No, you're Regina Dominican.
No. Anyway,
Not to be
I'm
confused
not-
with Regina,
I'm
Saskatchewan.
I'm not really following, but anyway, yeah, I didn't have a prom because of COVID, not because of an all-boys school.
Oh, so you can't. Oh, that's right, because you were out. You didn't get to finish.
No,
Yeah.
I had a drive-by graduation. We
just had drive-bys where I grew up. Built character. You learn to live.
yeah.
That would be.
We didn't have drive. I did not have the drive-by.
I mean, the 90s were a different time.
Illinois.
He might be from Chicago, but it's a different part of
It's
Chicago.
a different part a very different part of Chicago.
JD writes in because
JD.
with state wrestling, there was a huge moment. By the way, girls state wrestling and girls wrestling in general is blowing up.
Mhm.
And the 2 days, they sold 16,000 tickets. They had the 2 days to themselves, which was fantastic. And there was a major, major, major upset that the emotion of being in the building, I had to imagine, was kind of like, uh-oh, what do we do here? Because Macy Preacher, who is from Bennington, and, girls wrestling hasn't been around that long in the state, but she was trying to go for her 4th straight state title last night. And she got upset by Kaylin Lyons, who is from Westview, who had only been wrestling for 3 years, upset her in the 130 final. So it's the emotion of, hey, we're going to have a 4-timer, and then when they get beat, and the emotion on both sides. And so Iowa JD writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, for the first time ever, the girls got themselves the mats on NET, and they delivered. Let's give a big-time applause to Ron Higdon and the NSAA. I think Ron, who is in charge of wrestling, does a great job. It is one of my favorite state championships that the NSAA puts on. They do it great. It is grown and grown and grown, and now it's a 5-dayer with they split the boys and the girls. Shout out to Omaha Westview, 2 champs, first champion ever in school history. Huge shout out to Lions from Westview denying the Bennington wrestler the 4-time state champ. The theater was great. The kids are developing. This will be a fun ride in the next few years. Omaha Westview, by the way, good things are happening out there when it comes to athletics. Location. But it'll be interesting. So Iowa has women's wrestling because you have Division I women's wrestling. You know how popular wrestling is in this state, and it is picked up with in-state and some really good in-state girls wrestlers. If Nebraska at some point adds girls wrestling, or not, it'd be women's wrestling. If they add that here soon, I don't know off the top of my head how many other schools in the Big Ten have women's wrestling, but I'm sure it'll be a consideration.
Absolutely. And now with the changing landscape of college sports and Title IX, and how NIL factors into that, and just every day and every week, it seems like we're getting new and different NCAA rules and regulations. There might be some room to add some sports or to, add women's sports or whatnot. And I think that has to be at the top of the list, frankly, if Nebraska is considering to add a women's sport to their catalog.
I would think either that or women's hockey.
I think that would be great.
People
too.
talk about men's hockey. So, when Trev got the job at Nebraska, he wanted to add men's hockey.
I'm sure.
He just come from Omaha. You know how important ice hockey is at Omaha. The BOR kind of said no.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
They stepped in the way, but where would you also play? Because Pinnacle Bank Arena is pretty busy. You're not playing at the Breslow Ice Center. You would basically, Omaha to add hockey, men's hockey, you would need the Pagula situation at Penn State, where they basically finance the entire program. They built the arena, and they take care of everything with their donation. But, it's always been like a dream of the Big Ten to have a bigger conference than they have right now with hockey.
I think too.
But I don't think that – I don't think that's going to happen at Nebraska. I think women's hockey would be added before men's hockey at Nebraska.
I think it doesn't surprise me for a second that the Board of Regents shot that down, because it does make sense that they want – Omaha has hockey. University of Nebraska, Omaha, that's their main sport is hockey. And I don't think that if you were to add University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and they were to have a hockey team, it would garner a ton of popularity. And there definitely is a shot that you take away from the popularity of University of Nebraska, Omaha, which is not beneficial at all to that athletic department. And so I'm not surprised at all that they shot that down. And I think it's good, frankly, that they shot that down, because UNO is a really, really good hockey program. That's what they have. Nebraska's got plenty of other sports and plenty of other money-making machines over there at the athletic department. There's no need to impede on that. But I do like your point. Women's hockey, I think there definitely would be. And with, Nebraska athletics in general, and Nebraska sport fans in general, they love their women's sports. That's one of the prideful things about Nebraska athletics and Nebraska fans, is that they take women's sports incredibly seriously. And so if they were to add that and they were to make an investment in it and be competitive right away, I think it would be incredibly beneficial to not only just the athletic department, but fans as well.
My wrestling buddy, Iowa JD, because we've gone to Nebraska wrestling together. I said the NCAA is sanctioning women's wrestling in the next 2 years. It doesn't take a lot of money to start, and the sport will take off again once the NCAA sanctions it. All right, back to basketball and emails.
By the way, we have dropped to 15 below now. Continue.
I mean, the wind's really not blowing.
No. You could throw the ball today.
But my hands were hurting in the car. After walking, because my
How long is your walk from your place to where you park?
It's about a minute and a half.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, some frozen nose hair.
Yeah. Like I told you, my water bottle, the water in my water bottle got frozen.
Last night, so being Kansas City yesterday, Sporting KC played. So they were playing Inter Miami with Messi. And there were 15,000 that went. It was so
damn.
The air temperature was 1 degree when they started last night. They said the on-field temperature was 9 degrees. Now,
okay, it was warmer.
Don't be a wimp. Remember the Kansas City Miami playoff game, it was 4 below actual temperature, and what the wind chill was 25 below.
Something like that. Yeah, and they did fine.
I mean, it was I ain't gonna kid you. When we came out of the arena last night in Kansas City, I mean, it was cold, but they had talked about, I'm sure if Messi wasn't involved, they would have pushed it back another day, but they played last night. They had 15,000 people outdoors to watch soccer. So, be tough.
Yeah.
Minus 15. Wait till it warms up a little bit this morning.
Yeah.
But you know what? Prepare yourself for shorts on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Zach's email about that thing that Nebraska basketball was doing last night. I was all fired up to come in here. I'm like, you know what? Nebraska's won 2 in a row. They went on the road. They won 2. They're nearly a lock for the NCAA tournament. They're going to have a couple of days off. Michigan's going to be on a short turnaround after a huge emotional game Friday night against Michigan State. Zach writes in, shutting this off with 10 minutes left in the second half. Every player on this team is absolutely worthless. Now, remember, I'm not condoning this email. I'm just reading this email from Zach, who rides the roller coaster of a Nebraska basketball fan.
He cares.
The most tortured fan base that roots for a team that wears the fat or skinny N. The garbage that this blank hole university puts on the basketball court every season is flat out pathetic and unacceptable. Turn you into a Mav fan. They play at home.
7:05.
7:05.
By the way,
Saturday night, South Dakota.
This is during the game. Like we are I am
yeah.
watching the game, and I am getting flooded with these emails, which I am great chuckle out of me every time with the passion.
Okay, we use the same word again. Nothing that this blank hole program does matters at all until they win an NCAA tournament game. And these clowns aren't winning an NCAA tournament game, so nothing about the season matters. I don't give a F if they make the tournament. 0 Fs
That's not true.
if they don't win a game. It's worthless to me as the effort these chumps play with most games. Okay? We'll welcome Zach back after they pull an upset against Michigan.
About to say. Will they still be a blank hole if they're able to fend off Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf?
You know what they will be?
What?
They will be what Nebraska basketball is one hell of a roller coaster. And you never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. Joey writes in, I don't think it's a culture issue. If that was the case, they wouldn't be in the NCAA discussion. I think it's a talent IQ issue. They can't afford to make dumb mistakes and expect to win games with this roster. That's why I always say they need to do little things right, like avoiding dumb turnovers, rebounding, and playing better D. How many live ball turnovers did they have last night?
Way too many. Weren't there 6 in the first 7 possessions?
Toughness again. That's what travels in situations like that. Yep, they got punked last night.
Yeah,
but they play Michigan.
Punked is an understatement.
Monday night.
It was embarrassing.
All right, Scary Matt with Jimmy. That's not a record, by the way, for as many words we can't say on air out of a Zach the Lego Maniac.
No,
email.
we've had more. We've had more.
Hour 2 coming up next. All right, hour number 2 on a Thursday. Bone-chilling cold, but a warm-up is coming. I'm going to be the optimistic guy. Shorts on Tuesday. Car wash is going to be packed. We'll be back, baby. Baseball is about ready to start. Spring training.
Oh,
Thinking about going to Tokyo to see the Cubs and the Dodgers play.
you're thinking about it?
I'd have to go get the passport. Hey, what's the Jimmy? You would know this. You're not. You don't fly. So flying through MSP on Sunday morning, and I didn't even, like of the things that have gone on in the aviation industry over the last month. I still don't even think about it when I hop on a plane. Like we had a little bit of a rough landing, but didn't even think about it.
Sure.
But they are pushing the Real ID.
Oh shoot!
I saw that.
Okay, so
I think we all have to do that.
I have to do that.
If you are going to fly, they were saying, because they had these announcements that you have to get the Real ID, and the deadline is coming up here. So I got to research the Real ID so that I don't when I'm a TSA pre-check guy, which I highly recommend.
Really?
Oh yeah, worth it.
Oh, it's 5 years, $85, and then the renewal is about $50.
Oh, that's worth it.
It's a life changer.
That is awesome.
Almost nearly every airport. Now, some places it doesn't matter, but I don't want to be like stopped by my friend Chuck, who works the TSA and is usually checking IDs and stuff at the little kiosk. I don't want to be stopped and said, you can't get on the plane, you don't have a Real ID. So I need to look into that.
Yeah. So I got my car registration thing emailed the other day, so we'll be set back a few more $100.
So I'll show you my ID. I'll show you my ID, not on camera, but I'll show you, Gary Sharp. So that's my ID right there, my Illinois driver's license.
Hello, that picture.
I like that picture.
How much time did you do in Joliet?
No, it's a pretty here. I don't want to show my info, but there's my picture right there. It's a pretty good pic. It's a pretty good pic of me. All right.
I can smell the hangover.
Everyone listening can see the picture. For an Illinois ID, I need a star. I'm missing my gold star.
So that'll
that's
be the Real ID.
Yeah. So the Real ID is just this big brash gold star. And so I have to now. That's great that you actually mentioned that because I'm going home next weekend. So I will probably go and make my. You make reservations at the DMV now in Illinois, at least.
I think you do that here too.
Can you make appointments? I remember. I'm old enough to remember the days when it was a slog, when it was a free for all, when it was a first come first serve, where you wait in that line and it'd take a while. Now these kids are soft. You get to make an appointment. You just get to walk in.
You don't go to school just because it's cold.
You still got to wait.
People yelling at you, screaming at you. You see the pain and the agony when not enough people have their papers.
You have to pick and choose which location in Omaha you go to, and let Matt Coatney help you. That's really the whole part of this discussion. Zach follows up with a couple of emails here on Nebraska basketball.
Just gonna glaze over that.
They're a 10 seed right now. They're probably 2 wins from a lock. Maybe 3, but they have 3 of the last 4 at home. I don't care if they beat Michigan. I don't care if they win out. If they don't win an NCAA tournament game this year, I don't care. I saw this team upset number 1 last season, and I saw them absolutely clown Blue Blood Indiana in the Big Ten tournament on the way to the NCAA tournament. But here we are, and Nebraska is still the only program to never win a tournament game. So it means nothing. Until they win an NCAA tournament game, it's all worthless to me. I look forward to Zach watching the Michigan game, and if Nebraska pulls an upset, being one of the people that storm the floor. Unless Fred Hoiberg, with a second and a half to go, gets on the mic and says, you know what? NIL for basketball here is not very good. Okay, we're fighting an uphill battle. The last thing I want is more money to be thrown away and given to the Big Ten for court storming. If you did not see it, Dennis Gates pulled a boss move last night for Mizzou. He's had a really peculiar start at Mizzou. Last year, they were 0-18 in the SEC. This year, they have beaten 3 top 5 teams. They're really good. Mitchell and Grill last night were fantastic. They still missed 16 free throws and put up 110 on number 4 Alabama. But all of a sudden, the New Hearn Center looked like it was bumping. Jimmy is avoiding this whole conversation because we're talking good things about Mizzou basketball. So,
my thoughts.
The SEC loves their storming the field or court storming.
Yeah, and they get fined.
So
out the You know what?
Mizzou would have been looking at a $500,000 fine if they would have stormed the court last night after beating number 4.
$500,000.
It just means more.
Second violation. So Dennis Gates gets on the mic. This is a boss move.
Oh, it's called pulling the gates now, by the way.
And he said, "Do not storm the floor." Essentially, we need to save that money for later.
Yeah.
Essentially, $500K could get us a sixth man next year. So stay in your seats while we celebrate on the floor. I thought that was such a great move last night.
You see this Latvian playing for Charlotte over here? We need him. We need him next year. All right. If you storm this court, we can't get him.
That would be the new Billy Tubbs. It might be the new Billy Tubbs.
You see the guy making 3-pointers for Purdue right now? We need to buy him. Okay. You come on here. We can't get him.
A lot of people think that Dennis Gates will be in the mix at Florida State.
Yeah?
Would you leave the SEC to go to Florida State?
I think
no.
We are way past the point of it's just simply this now. If you're in the SEC and you're in the Big Ten and you're a head coach, regardless of where you were, unless it's a upward move within one of those conferences, just hold on. Just stay. I don't think there's any point in going to the ACC or the Big 12. Why would you want to put yourself on the outside looking into a whole heap of athletic department problems? Just stay in the SEC. Unless
Ben Johnson's going to keep his job at Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Minnesota athletics.
Golfs are back.
Football went 2-0 against the La La Landers. Basketball went 2-0 against the La La Landers. But last night, Iowa lost a little bit of a heartbreaker. Weird game against Oregon. I don't know if they're still looking at the replay monitor. Speaking of Mizzou, Alabama, that game took about 2.5 hours, and they didn't go to overtime because they kept looking at the replay monitor.
I turned off Mizzou, Alabama a little bit early because I was like, it was still playing. It was still happening. I'm like,
is this game still going on?
Missouri was in control. By the way, Missouri scored 110 points against Alabama, and they were in control of that game basically the entire time.
Yep.
I mean, they were surgical against one of the best teams in the country, which, by the way, 35 points from Mark Sears and Alabama still can't get a victory. But Missouri basically said, we're just going to keep scoring, and you can't keep up with us.
Wouldn't it have been ironic last night if Mark Sears would have led Alabama to a victory in a building that was built on Walmart money?
Nice.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Were you sitting on that one? That was
Shout out Page Sports Arena.
That's what I would have said as the announcer. I said, Sears is not out of business. Where is my Montgomery Ward? Where is my Yonkers?
Just call him a craftsman.
When you're watching games, because you're a good announcer, when you're watching basketball games,
you long time.
Do you think like, oh, this is the call I would have for this play, or this is the call I would have for this player? No, you don't backseat announce.
I don't want to jinx something. There's only one thing involving Omaha men's basketball that I have thought in my head. How am I going to call it?
Okay,
but I don't want to jinx it. But other than that, no, because there was a play last night that J.J. White made a hell of a play, and so it came naturally. One quick note on coaching. So Iowa got beat by Oregon last night.
Yeah.
Iowa's 5-10 in the Big Ten, and people don't go to Carver Hawkeye.
No.
I think so save this for a little bit later down the road to have this conversation.
Okay.
I think because of the popularity and the success of women's basketball at Texas, Notre Dame, and Iowa, it hurts attendance at men's games. Now, they're all three not playing very well, but nobody's going to the games. I think the success of Iowa women's basketball has an impact on men's basketball, and then you compound that they have not been very good this year. So there's a lot of talk about Fran and what's going to happen.
I don't think you're too far.
That's just from JD.
I don't think you're too far off. We can save it for a different time, though.
So I think that they will not fire Fran. Like, Fran.
Really?
Fran is the stuff he does, like in the community and to raise money for Coaches vs. Cancer. That's really, really good. People tell me that Fran is different away from the floor and the TV cameras. So
actually a really great guy.
I think for a guy that has been at Iowa that long, and it almost seems inevitable now, there will be a retirement movement where
do some class.
Fran retires. They won't use the word fire.
Right.
Fran retires, and then it becomes very interesting in the college basketball world. Chris Jans is a popular name that is thrown out there from Mississippi State.
I know him.
I'm telling you, a guy that he may not be at Drake much longer. They're 24-3, and he's essentially doing it with D2 kids.
And they had a great win yesterday, too. They absolutely dominated.
Yeah, they should have a running clock in the game against UIC. They were up 23-2. Ben McCollum, okay? So if I'm Iowa, Ben McCollum is my guy, which starts another domino of who would take the Drake job. Does the South Dakota State job open? Blah, 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 blah. But watch this. So West Virginia's in the tournament, right?
So
Darren DeVries.
You were going
Tucker
there.
is sitting out the year with an injury, so he could come back and play. If Darren DeVries is approached by Iowa and says no, because not only D-Rock's a really good coach, but you would get a healthy son to play 1 year.
Inject some energy.
If like he's mentioned for the Iowa job and he doesn't take it because he's waiting for something else, would that be on the other side of Iowa City? Lots of stuff here in the next couple of weeks with coaching.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Hey, I was scouting Alabama just to check out Nate Oates' style of play last night. I'm just saying.
By the way, Omaha spent time, Chris Crutchfield and Kyan Brown spent time with Nate Oates in the offseason. Yeah, learning how Alabama plays.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That's great insight. Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, obviously, Coach DeVries would be the obvious, connection there for Iowa. I don't know. I think you're right. I think the Drake coaches, they've been doing one hell of a job, and I've put a little bit of a future on them for the NCAA tournament.
Hey,
so
I think they're going to get in as an at-large if they don't win Arch Madness.
I think I agree with you on that.
All right, let's get to the bottom of this real ID. Here is Tony. Good morning, Tony. I guess I'm not going to have it.
Just drive.
So Jay says, get clear. The service is amazing. If you go to Tokyo, let me know, and I have tips. I went in 2008. Oh, and the A's and the Red Sox were there when he lived in Asia.
Oh.
This can't be like a spontaneous thing that I'm just going to go to Tokyo to see
the
Dodgers and the Cubs, but it would be.
I'm either going to go to Lincoln or Tokyo.
It's on my bucket list to go see a professional baseball game in Japan just to experience that. See,
is it in the Tokyo Dome or is it?
I believe so.
The Tokyo Dome is on my list of venues that I want to go to. It's absolutely. It's a spectacle.
So not every place has clear. I don't think Epley has clear. They just have pre-check. But a lot of the major airports have clear, and I see people do that. I don't know. I'm pretty loyal to the pre-check. But pre-check or clear, that's the way you got to go. Why stand in the line?
How long does that process take to do TSA pre-check?
Okay, so
to get it,
the office I went to is over in the Regency.
Okay.
I went in there because, we travel so much commercially for basketball.
Oh, yeah. It's a great
all the
great
coaches,
tool.
because they're out on the road, they have it. There's a lot of, if teams that fly commercial, and nowadays, Omaha almost flies as much private as they do commercial, which, hey, I'm a big fan of that.
Heck yeah.
I would have been a big fan of flying back from Kansas City last night, but what the hell? I got to see the McDonald's in Mound City flying by at midnight.
Stop there.
There's a lot of teams that, as part of the NIL deal, that fly a lot commercial, they will buy pre-check for their athletes. They make, because it's a 5-year deal.
Sure.
So the one here in Omaha, when I went and got it, and I just recently renewed it, my 5 years was up. It's just an office in a building, one of those office buildings in the office complex over by in Regency. Just went in. You have to have all the paperwork. I think I had to bring my birth certificate, maybe my passport, and they, you fill out the paperwork, you pay the fee, they file it, and then you get a letter with your number, and then you're in the system. And so,
then is there a waiting process though? Or is
there wasn't for me, but again, that was like 6 years ago. But it's really inexpensive. So 5 years, $85, I think, was the original for pre-check.
Here's a name I want to throw out to you.
About pre-check?
No, about the Iowa head coaching job. And you could shoot it down right away. And it's a guy who painted a little bit in
Probably
controversy.
not George Raveling.
Will Wade?
Probably not Dr. Tom.
Will Wade?
I did think about Dr. Tom.
McNeese? I don't think he's your number one. I agree with you. I think it probably goes Darren DeVries and then You could look at Ben McCollum, who's doing a great job.
Don't forget about Chris Jans.
Yes.
Chris Jans. But Will Wade, I mean, McNeese State they had a hell of a year last year. They made it to the NCAA tournament. They're at the top of their conference right now in the Southland. They're 21-6. He's got Power 5 coaching experience. I think Will Wade, once again, like, it's
Thinks
really
he
just
did illegal now?
It's going to be up to the discretion of Iowa to be like, we don't really know what they're thinking or who they're thinking. And Fran is still very much the head coach and everything like that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they could definitely just have a name that we don't even think about. They're like, that's our guy right away. You know, it's a little bit weird in this kind of basketball head coaching searches. They're a little bit weirder than football.
I wonder if Will is more comfortable in the South. Now,
so
here's the thing. Like, if Indiana, which there's a guy that's popped up with a Lincoln connection, by the way, for the Indiana job.
Ty Lue?
No, Ty Lue is never coming back to college. Ty Lue is perfect in the NBA.
I don't know. I was making a joke.
Mark Turgeon. So he's been out of coaching for 3 years. Indiana likes to win the press conference.
Turge would win the press conference.
Well, maybe he won't because he's kind of that personality, but he's won. So that's a popular name in Bloomington. But Chris Beard is another popular name. So if
that's who
Will Wade to Ole Miss,
yeah,
kind of fill in the blank.
I like that.
Yeah.
Here's a weird for Indiana. So let me throw pie in the sky once at you. Okay,
pie.
It won't be Bobby Knight. Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah.
So Brad Stevens is like the whale,
Sampson.
right? Brad Stevens is the whale that everyone wants. I mean, it would
He's skinny though.
Probably cost you a lot of money, and I don't know if Brad wants.
Now he has already said no.
Yeah.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, he publicly said no.
Yeah,
fine.
He's holding out for Kansas.
Shaka.
Now he's a name that will be very popular.
And Shaka isn't afraid to move. Like Shaka, like he's not married to a school. I mean, when he was ready to leave VCU, he went right to Texas. And when he was ready to leave Texas, when Marquette came open, he went right to Marquette. Like he's not one of these guys where it's like, all right, I'm this guy forever. In Indiana, I mean, he's clearly a basketball guy. I mean, Shaka loves basketball. He understands.
No,
the
that
tradition.
would be. I mean, if you're from the Indiana perspective, it would be a smart move. I think if I was Marquette, I would try and hold on to him. And then I would also say, man, I know it's Indiana, but man, I got a good deal in Milwaukee. But he would definitely be a guy that
I like him in the Big East.
I like him in the Big East too. But I also do think, like, you know, it's whether or not you want to admit it, there still is it's Indiana effect of it. You know, they still have that going for them. And it's in the Big Ten. And we still are in this changing landscape of college basketball or college sports in general. And like, it's valuable to be in the Big Ten. It's one of those jobs. If they gave him a call, it's one of those things where I don't know if Shaka says no. It's just whether or not they're able to get it done from a money and buyout perspective. And if Marquette, you know, can bring something to the table. It'd be an interesting combo though.
So I vehemently disagree with the discussion in Kansas City yesterday and around social media that this might be it for Bill Self. That this will be his last season. I think the only way it would be is if he had health issues, Jimmy. And I will tell you why I don't think it's his last season. Because they've already started. They are scouting players that are mid-major that could be in the portal.
They're going to have a massive overturn there. Bill's not going to retire off a season like this.
Yeah, they are. They haven't tampered with anybody.
Yeah,
but Bill is
watching.
Scouting mid-major programs for life in the portal. Now, remember another thing about the offseason, and this heavily involves Nebraska and Creighton, is you're going to go to 15 scholarships. Yeah. So how many basketball programs learn the lesson of why would we spend all this money, i.e. Kansas State? You know, Kansas State spent a lot of money? Nah. No. Indiana spent a lot of money? Nah. Retain guys and stay a little bit older in the portal. You know, or keep guys on your roster, you know, because Nebraska, you know, Creighton will be Creighton, and Creighton still recruits the high school kid.
They have a nice mix.
They've got a blueprint. They'll say, hey, you're a big man. You want to come here? We're going to develop you, whether you be from Serbia or whether you be from Sioux City.
Nice.
Okay. But
same climate.
So Creighton will be fine in the offseason. You know, they'll have Ashworth and Kalkbrenner to replace, of course. I'm telling you. All this discussion this morning about Nebraska basketball and the roller coaster that they ride, and Fred will be into his 7th year. Fred ain't getting fired.
No.
We're not. I'm not. I don't even think of that.
Neither do I.
But I know that's popular when they lose a game like last night.
Right.
Is
And then when they win Monday,
get rid of Fred, bring back Danny Nee. Which will not happen as well.
Yeah, he's not wearing quarter
This
zips.
is a monster offseason for Nebraska basketball because of as you alluded to, the landscape that is changing. You get to 15 scholarships. You have revenue sharing where Nebraska basketball is not at the top of the food chain in the athletic department. Okay, so they're not getting a bulk of the cash. They might be the third sport that would get the percentage of revenue share. The NIL is not very good. I wish Fred won't do this, but it's the elephant in the room, is that Nebraska basketball's NIL is not competitive enough. When Omaha men's basketball can offer Frankie Fiddler more than the initial offer from Nebraska, that's great for Omaha in the bull market,
but
it looks bad for Nebraska. And you could say, hey, Frankie sucks at Michigan State. Well, you know what? The man was able to pull off a white undershirt and a headband and throw down a yam against Purdue the other night.
After hitting a three. And literally changed the momentum of the entire game.
So with all that said, I mean, this is a big offseason because you look at the roster and you gotta correct some of the mistakes that you made in this portal. Thank God you have Mast, but it's the whole, like college basketball, and I can tell you this of being around it every day, it's simmering, man. We are about to go full speed into the offseason for college hoops with NIL, possibly some major jobs opening up. Buckle up, baby. And it might, and a lot, and I'll tell you, we'll have some noise locally.
Isn't there, though, already, like if you look at how Fred Hoiberg has constructed his roster, hasn't he already kind of hedged against the market in terms of how he's done the transfer portal, in the regard that he's getting guys who played Power 5 basketball that he thinks could be good before they get great, before they command a higher dollar marker? Yeah. And what I mean by that is, you look at the transfers that have had success here, right? They haven't had it in their first year. Casey didn't have it in his first year. CJ Wilcher didn't have his most success in his first year. Mm-hmm. Bryce Williams, Jawan Gary. You go down the list of like, Nebraska isn't necessarily getting the top dollar, holy crap, we got to get these guys type NIL transfers. They're getting dudes who are, mid-market, lower market, with the idea of, okay, they're going to play 1 year. They're going to figure out our system. They're going to figure out how we play basketball. We're going to develop them into then guys who would be top of the line transfer portal dudes. Do you keep them in play? And then now they've started the cycle a little bit, right?
Do you think they will change, though, to go back to 2 years ago, where they went and pursued established high-end mid-major guys instead of reclamation projects off Power 5 rosters, which they've done this year?
I think that Fred thought he had I'm trying to think. He had money in the bank with Bryce Williams and Jawan Gary, right? He said, okay, we have our two guys. I don't know if he fully knew the extent of Rink Mask injury when he was doing the scouting and recruiting of the guys in the transfer portal. Regardless of that, I think he thought, okay, because we have these two guys, this nucleus, this core that I think is good enough to carry us into the Big Ten season, that we can then go out and get guys with some potential. They may not have the highest production, but they have a lot of potential. We can develop them. And then next year, when they get better, we'll have an even bigger core of guys that go through. Now, at this point, I'm looking at this roster. Are you excited about a Connor Essegian, Berke Buchtengel core heading into next season with Rink Mask?
I'm excited that they'll have about 8 scholarships to fill, and they've got to figure out the NIL. Here's another thing. Not only with the Frankie Fiddler situation, and then I thought they had William Kyle. They had some other targets which they got beat above. Either a program is more successful than Nebraska or they have some more cash.
Yeah.
Does the name Abdul Bashir ring a bell?
No, not to me.
So he's the #1 junior college player in America.
Okay.
He's a dude. He's at Casper College. If you're out in Casper, Wyoming, if you know.
Been there, actually.
Nebraska was the first to offer him.
Very cold, very windy.
He just committed to Auburn. So,
wow, that's an upgrade.
Success and cash, both are lacking. So you have to be really, really smart in the portal. And when you miss, you have oddities like this year and this roster and the roller coaster that we're on.
This is why I'm saying what I'm saying, though. They're clearly already, his strategy has been, we're going to get not these top dudes, but guys that we believe in, develop them, keep them, and then go ahead and try and compete because they don't have the money and they don't have the titles to go and get those top guys. And so they're playing it from a kind of a money ball perspective a little bit, if you want to look at it that way, where they're going out getting cheaper guys with potential, hoping they can develop them into something. I mean, that's kind of how they're playing it. I mean, that's how they played it with a lot of these dudes. The only two guys that they didn't do that with is Bryce Williams and Rick Mask. And those are the two guys that had a lot of success in mid-major programs who came in and made an instant impact, which is why when you say that, yeah, I would love for them to do that again. Now, they did that with Andrew Morgan this year too, and he's been great on the offensive end, but there definitely is a lot of
their best recruiting tool will be Bryce Williams. Bryce Williams is going to make a lot of money overseas.
Yeah.
He's going to make a lot of money overseas. He's their best recruiting tool of a mid-major guy that can come here that has at least 2 years and can work his way into making money when they're gone from here. Because Bryce will make some money. But I'm telling you, buckle up, everybody. We just went through a wild college football season. College basketball season I'm hearing from coaches, it's going to be friggin' nuts. There's going to be movement. There's more money. There's more scholarships. There's coaches that may say, they may pull a Tony Bennett, or there could be some jobs that open up that you don't expect to open up, and then the domino starts. All right, Steve Sipple is going to join us coming up at 9:15.
Let's go.
I'm sure he has a thought or two.
Probably.
Yeah. On the ABS challenge system that'll be used in spring training. Also, I've made a commitment. I know to the love of my life, that's probably, she's rolling her eyes. I've made a commitment to watch every time that Paul Skeens pitches this year. I watched him throw a bullpen yesterday on TV. It's disgusting.
This is a great combo that we can have because I've thought about this before. About the
commitment?
Are you watching Paul Skeens?
Yes, I have thought about commitment.
Jay has more information on living in Asia and clear and pre-check that we'll get into. Also, Brian Edwards stops by on an Ice on Fire day. The Four Nations tonight, the USA versus Canada. We'll get into that. And also very, very sad news in the world of hockey this morning. That's all to come. Gary and Matt with Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. Hey, if you want to join the fastest growing youth basketball program in Omaha, AEF Academy is the place for you. Last night they had girls tryouts. Great turnout as they're building their second grade through 17 under teams. Boys tryouts for the spring and summer are upcoming. There is never a charge to try out. They just ask that you register with AEF, Attitude, Effort, and Focus. They're 3 core values that are instilled in every athlete to become impact players both on the court and in their communities. They host competitive teams, camps, valuable instruction opportunities for players at all levels. They're so good at their new location, 99th and Portal Road in Papillion. They got 3 hardwood courts. Stephen Ashworth was hosting his clinic the other day. Lots of kids making memories. Some of the kids were taller than Stephen Ashworth. And you never know what pro basketball player might be showing up to get back on the trail. Kyrie Thomas is at AEF getting shots up. You could get shots up as well as you get ready for the spring and summer campaign with great coaches. They're paid, trained, and dedicated to shaping the complete athlete. And their tryouts, you're wondering, is there going to be some favoritism? Is it going to be just like the SEC and the Big Ten when it comes to the college football playoff? Not so much. But they will put you on the right team with great evaluation. So check them out today online. They got a lot of stuff going on, clinics, everything. AEFacademy.com. That's AEFacademy.com.
Buckle up.
What in the F are you talking about?
Just as when you thought you were like, man, I'm starting to really love to like enjoy having a radio show with this kid, and like this is going pretty well. I go ahead and I tell you something off air, and you're like,
about to get up.
So
and
this
leave.
this isn't even sports related. So people know I have a love of the Penguins, not Pittsburgh. Well, I do.
You do like them.
Well,
I
you
do,
like- you do like
and let me just insert this real quick here. A guy I did 1 year in the Penguin organization. I was the voice of the Wheeling Nailers in the ECHL, but I got to do a Penguin game and got to spend time with Mike Lang, who at the time was legendary radio voice / TV voice of the Penguins. He passed away yesterday in his mid-70s. You know that you've made it as an announcer when you're attached to your city, and Mike Lang was attached to Pittsburgh. And if you haven't heard him and you say, hey Sharpie, give me one call to listen to. Mario's goal in the '92 Stanley Cup Final is incredible. That's about peak. Scratch your back with a hacksaw. Elvis has left the building. Go hunt moose on a Harley. Mike Lang had these great phrases. He made it fun. And I had a brief time to get to know him, but he was, to a young hockey broadcaster, he was fantastic. But he was a great storyteller. As our announcers get a little bit older and our younger announcers come along, they don't tell as many stories just because they don't have the history.
Mm-hmm.
Our older announcers tell stories that you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Mike Lang was that guy. I was sad to hear that news yesterday. I know that he
was young
when he's
is that mid-70s?
He had battled some health issues. That's why he retired from the Penguins. But I imagine when they're back on the ice, because he is the Pittsburgh Penguins, they will do one hell of a tribute to him. So tough to transition here. Back to what you just said. So I love Penguins.
Yeah.
All right. I sponsored a penguin at the zoo. I thought about
Stuffy as a penguin.
I thought about owning a penguin, and then I looked at how much they eat, and I would be bankrupt.
Oh yeah.
Like I could find a way to house a penguin in my house.
They're like a 13-year-old human.
Yeah, but just the food.
Well, because of the insulation, and they burn a lot of calories, quote unquote.
And we would probably disagree on the temp of the house.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, which is why they have to eat so much.
So
you would be a nightmare roommate.
By the way, I love nature documentaries on like Disney Plus. I haven't gotten to the penguin one yet, but like all these ones that I watch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually got to an emperor penguin one. It's actually quite incredible how they have to like breed and everything like that, and how brutal it is. Like them having to like take care of their like little baby penguins and stuff like that, and like the hierarchy of it. I think it's might be just called Penguins. I don't know. I watched it a year and a half ago. Absolutely incredible. Great watch on Disney
Which one
Plus.
was Gino? Which one was Sid? Which one was Latang?
I'm going to be, dude,
Then Mario.
That penguin documentary that I watched got intense. It was the
92 Stanley Cup Final? Or the Stanley Cup Final against the Red Wings twice?
I got really nervous. That's the best documentary.
Pistons playoff series?
Anyway, yes, you love penguins.
Okay, so I love the penguin. I just said because there's something going on with pandas. It's on the Today Show. And so I looked up at the screen and the pandas were on. I like pandas.
Yeah, not real.
Okay.
The entire animal's not real?
Yeah, so I was trying to, you know what? I'm a down the middle guy. I like black and I like white and I like the cookie.
The swirl.
So I say that pandas might be second in my favorite animal. I'd have to think on that, but I like them.
Yeah.
My man over here says pandas are fake.
All of them.
Speak.
How did they survive?
This.
How are they still alive? These guys are the laziest, rolling around, doing nothing. Now, look, obviously.
Literally me in college.
Obviously, there's not someone in a panda suit pretending to be a panda, right? Pandas are real. They're actual animals, okay? But I'm just saying, how did they survive? Like how they do nothing. They're not a predator. They're not eating anything. Have you ever been threatened by a panda? Have you ever been to a zoo and you looked at a panda? You're like, oh my god, I would never want to get into a confined box with this guy. No, pandas are lazy. They're stupid. They just eat bamboo. There's a reason why we got to capture all of them. I'm surprised they're not extinct. I mean, they're the most useless animal ever. They do nothing. There's nothing interesting about them. They just roll around like a big tub of lard eating bamboo.
This sounds like a great life.
They're not a real animal. They're just like, a little, they're like an American Girl doll. They're just up for display.
Wow.
They're like a beanie baby. They're a live beanie baby. They do nothing.
I'm glad you didn't say this 2 months ago. You might not be here right now.
Pandas. There's so
I
many.
don't know
better
what to
an-
say.
There's so many better animals.
Gary, I
than
might
a
have to go
panda.
home. I'll see you in the morning.
So many better animals than pandas.
Crossovers next.
Clint chimes in. Panda's job is to be cute.
Yeah.
Why do you have to knock somebody who wants to be cute?
Yeah.
Because I like.
Look at that. Look at that. That cute or what?
More pandas are coming to the U.S.
Yeah, they need to because they can't survive.
Hey, good job, Trump.
Yeah.
We got
Look,
more pandas coming to the
he
U.S.
said.
Look at that. That's like a good-looking panda.
It'd be
You
a
see
guard.
you see the panda, you're in a good mood.
Mhm.
Panda.
Panda as a center.
Pandas
Recapping.
suck.
Recapping. I hope that you never run into a panda out in the wild.
Or date one. I mean, man.
Now,
Why would I date a panda?
Hey, we don't judge here. This is a no judgment show.
look at. You don't need
I can keep
you don't-
looking at the screen at
you don't-
pandas. Nothing's going to change the fact that that
You-
is a useless
Look
animal.
at him. Look at him
He's
off
in
the line.
ball. Are you kidding me?
You know what?
You think that's threatening? I could beat up a
Why
panda.
does an animal have to be threatening to be loved?
Because that's cool. I love like Siamese tigers. Like I love like white striped tigers. I love like a lion. You ever see a grizzly bear? Oh my god. Like grizzly bears out in the wild up in Minnesota.
I
There's
saw
nothing
Zach
better.
Randolph.
There's nothing better than when you're driving down the backwoods of northern Minnesota and you see a black bear running across the street.
And
Oh,
then you hit it, and
no. We got hit by a deer once though. That
that's not
sucked.
good.
On that
Damn.
note, back to Clear and Pre-Check. This is from Jay. He said, get clear. The service is amazing. Clear and Pre-Check are combined in major airports. Games at the Tokyo Dome, amazing.
Yes.
He said go.
I want to go. I want to go to the Tokyo Dome one day. I have to. I love luxury. I have to get a United. I want to go to the United Club one day, like at the O'Hare Airport. Go in there, get a little,
Well, he goes to
get a little
Lexus Club with the chai.
champagne. Well, I do. Hey, don't expose me. I like some
You
fruit,
exposed you.
like some, champagne, like a
It-
little omelet, if you will,
if
some
you-
prosciutto
if
before
you-
I hop in my flight.
If you know, you know. If you have the opportunity with a credit card or miles and you get to experience those places, they are pretty good. Don Man X tweets at the show. Watch Skeens pitch last year at Warner. Had the opportunity to watch him in the bullpen from behind the mound prior. All I could do is giggle. Should grown men use the word giggle?
I'm
Yeah,
okay with
why
it.
not?
I'm
What is with
we
you
can't
and the
cancel so many
limited
words.
lexicon of men?
Giggle.
I can't use a certain word that to describe my stomach that would
Tummy.
get me up. Okay, fine.
Tummy.
You said it. You
No.
said it. Fine.
I didn't say it like as something I'm referencing to
I
myself.
can't say tummy and I can't say giggle. Why? When did
Giggle.
you become the word czar? When
Gig-
did it become your job to say what I can or cannot say? I
I'm
can
not
say
saying-
whatever I want.
I'm just saying that giggle is a weird word.
I like giggle. I like
Giggle.
cackle. Cackle, giggle, and chuckle.
He's unreal and he's huge, so he could stay healthy. This is going to be a fun career to enjoy. I've made the commitment. I'm going to watch Paul Skeens pitch every single time for the Buccos. I just hope that it's not against the Cubs.
So
And I hope that, let me look here. The Pirates play in Kansas City this year.
Ooh.
I made a
I
similar
believe that Kansas City
commitment
played in Pittsburgh last year.
with
Oh, yes, I
LeBron
knew this.
James.
Baseball man Nick Grimm told me.
Because I was like, man, I don't want to look back and LeBron retires and I go, man, I didn't watch enough of his games. Like I
Mhm.
didn't experience enough of his greatness. So I do commend you, and I might do a similar commitment to try and do my best to watch Skeens pitch just to see his rise to greatness. Because the last thing you want is for someone to retire and you're like, man, like it was great, he was in the league, but I didn't see him enough.
July 7th, 8th, and 9th. Pittsburgh will be playing at the Royals. I've checked on the probables.
For July, you're not gonna know.
TBA.
Yeah.
They are TBA.
Could be Skeens, could be Drebeck. Could be
But we do
Bubba.
have
How far in
Spring
advance
training
will you
baseball
be?
day.
How far in advance will you be doing the math? Where you're like, all right, here,
about
here.
2 weeks out because it'll be right before the All-Star break. And if Skeens is going to pitch in the All-Star game, they may mess with his.
Oh yeah.
But if he's pitching one of those games, it's 6:40. That's got to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Or a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Can you imagine you did the math like a month and a half out, and then dang it, there's a rain delay in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's the tough part. But he'd be worth it to watch because he did pitch at Warner. People forget it was a kids' day at
was
11
11
a.m. in May, pitching for the Indianapolis Indians. And then the rest of the series, because then Livy comes to town, the rest of the series gets washed out. And she watched more Creighton baseball than she watched her boyfriend pitch in Omaha. All right, quick break. 45 past the hour. What did you say about pandas are going to be extinct, or it doesn't make sense? They don't make
they
sense?
would be extinct if it weren't for there's only 1,800 of them out in the world right now.
Is Luke Fickle extinct?
Yes.
And then he goes, no, wait a minute. Look what my AD just did. Luke Fickle got a contract extension.
For what?
And people called off school in the Big Ten to celebrate. Steve Sipple, join us 9:15. Brian Edwards coming up at 9:45 on Gary and Matt. 1620 The Zone.
This basketball season, when your favorite stars score buckets, we're alley-ooping you an opportunity to win money from watching sports with Underdog. It's one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Hey, the NBA's back, and it's back big time tonight because you can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000, which we have confirmed is more just with your hoops knowledge. This week on Underdog, give me some NBA. Give me something. Brian Edwards is having success with the NBA. I'm going to have success on the NBA. I'm looking at, well, we'll see what happens tonight. I should have looked at Charlotte and the Lakers last night instead of Alabama and Mizzou, but to each their own. Download the Underdog app also. Sign up now using promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer up to $1,000 bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with promo code ZONE. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, good Thursday morning. Remember, Nebraska basketball has Michigan on Monday, and you may be able to storm the court. Just positivity here.
Do you think they would storm the court?
Yes.
Yeah. Easier
Yep.
to get out.
Yep. That actually
True.
That actually is kind of funny. It is. That's why I laughed.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Mr. Positive Guy. My basketball team is in first place with 2 to go, and the asteroids' percentages of hitting the Earth
Are rising.
Yeah, but they're not. I still like our chances.
It went from 2.2 to 2.66.
Which
Isn't that a little symbolistic that it went to 2.66?
Well, if it goes to 666, then we're in trouble.
I think
And we wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you. They'd be like, well, it checks out.
I think if it went to 311, then it would hit Omaha.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty optimistic that either I'm not going to be here,
That'd be a beautiful disaster.
or the asteroid will miss us. And if they need somebody, the old school asteroid game, man, I was really good.
Really?
Oh, I would take that on. If they asked me who was good at asteroids,
Yeah.
I'm there. Galaga, asteroids.
Ooh. Yeah.
I'm a pinball guy.
Okay.
I actually got into the top 5 at an Omaha establishment on one of the pinball machines here.
Beercade.
Yeah.
Yes. Beercade 2.
Were your initials ASS?
And I've been to Beercade too.
Very nice
I'm
establishment.
an OG Beercader.
I went to Beercade 2. Ton of fun. I played their cowboy pinball game. Bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
I love pinball.
By the way, we got to do a better job over in Benson of getting the knuckleheads out of there. I
Okay.
don't get to go to Benson all the time, but I
Yeah.
love going over there. That's the vibe of the community. But man, I got some idiots
Really?
that like to go over and just ruin the fun over in Benson. So that's my little PSA. So one quick thing about Omaha men's basketball. They won last night. They got some help. So Omaha has 2 games to go. They're in first place by half a game over St. Thomas. Right now, Omaha's probably going to be the 1 or the 2 seed. St. Thomas, which is not eligible for the NCAA tournament, they hold the tiebreaker because it works its way down and it ends up at net, and there's no way that Omaha can catch them. But Omaha's going to be the 1 or the 2. And you know it's fun, and I hope there's a lot of people Saturday night at Baxter. It's a 7:05 tip against South Dakota, who's really good and beat Omaha in Vermilion back in January.
Weather's going to be nice Saturday.
They just beat St. Thomas. Creighton's not home. Nebraska's not home. Creighton plays on Sunday against Georgetown at 3. And then Nebraska, of course, doesn't play until you storm the floor on Monday night against Michigan.
Yep.
But so last night, Omaha men's basketball was on SportsCenter again for the locker room celebration. The locker room in Kansas City is small. It's actually the volleyball locker room. So you're like
gym
tight.
is small.
You're like tight. You're like, you better like your teammates.
Yeah.
You want to talk about culture? Omaha men's basketball has good culture because of the small locker room they're in. There were no fights before the game.
Are there troughs there too to build the culture?
No, it actually, because I had to go sit down with Crutch for our pregame. It actually is a really nice locker room. It's just not very big.
Sure.
Because they don't have 30 people playing volleyball at KC. But after the game, as has become our thing, they destroy a trash can. And it's turned into a wrestling moves. Last night was the double elbow.
Nice.
Between Josh, who is Chris's son, and then Brant Daniels, who is the director of basketball operations. I think I can say this. They're 2 bigger fellas.
Yeah.
So in a small locker room, it was a little bit tight. So if you see the video, you'll know what I'm saying. So it ended up on SportsCenter again last night.
Yeah.
You may want to come to the game on Saturday night because in the wrestling world, they have noticed, and the wrestling world could be involved.
No way.
With the locker room celebration.
No way.
A trio of notable, and I mean notable, wrestlers could be at Baxter Arena on Saturday night if Omaha wins to help them celebrate the move in the locker room.
Sierra
is a
Hotel,
small locker room.
Sierra Hotel, India Echo Lima Delta.
I'm not going to tell you who they are, but people will recognize their names.
I was going to say, if I could, if you mind, make a suggestion of
Sure.
the next move, or one
Yeah.
if they have 2 games left, so hopefully they end up doing this 2 more times, not including
No.
the Summit League.
Brother.
Summit League
Brother.
basketball tournament.
Brother,
You're right.
Last night started a stretch of 6 straight wins.
Yes. Hopefully.
We got 5 more to go. South Dakota, Oral Roberts, and 3 in Sioux Falls.
Can
Continue on.
we get Bubba Ray and Devon? Can we get a 3D? How about this? How about we get a table, all right, and we set the table up in the Omaha locker room, and then it's very doable, right? Kyan lifts up the table.
Now
Josh hits.
He's handed it off because he's a little bit banged up.
from doing it, or
Gotta
just
keep him healthy.
in general. Okay, fair. It doesn't matter. regardless, 3D. I think a 3D would be great for a trash can. And it would kill the trash can too.
You love wrestling. There is a name that you have mentioned in the last 6 weeks.
No way.
Yeah. So Saturday night, I'm selling you tickets to go see Omaha and South Dakota.
Matt's going now. Let you look at his face.
Well, I was already
he's
going.
going
I was already planning on going because
I knew you were going Sunday, but I didn't know you were going Saturday.
No, it's a double Omaha basketball weekend for me. I'm going to the Omaha game on Saturday, and I'm going to the Creighton game on Sunday. I have to get tickets for both, but
I'd like to be skinny. Maybe I'll invest in a diet.
Same.
I'm still shook by your panda discussion.
What do you mean they're shook? They suck. They're terrible. That's no discussion.
He's just running the score
Man,
up
now
on
you
those
got me
little
like
furry
I'm
guys.
now I'm like I don't know if there's someone I really really like. Like I'm trying to think of who I've mentioned the last 6 weeks.
You know what? I hope it's a panda in the locker room just to show him.
Now remember, the last time they played South Dakota, they lost, and South Dakota removed all the trash cans.
Yeah.
A good rivalry, big good game. It's gonna be a tough game on Saturday night. So yesterday, while the college football playoff meeting was going on, or the Big Ten and the SEC, the news out of the Big Ten that drew the most attention. Well, maybe I'm not gonna say the most because there's a lot in Petiti and
a ton in Petiti
and Sankey.
Yeah,
but wasn't the Luke Fickell news just the annual extension?
I
that's what I thought.
For the life of me, I don't know.
Nothing to see here.
Like why? Why?
That's why I wonder. It's just the annual extension, right?
And maybe it makes no sense. And I'm not saying here, I'm not banging on a trash can to say that Luke Fickell should be fired. Okay, they're trying to do something a little bit different in Wisconsin. I give them kudos for hiring Luke Fickell, and Fickell tried and he made a big jump trying to get Phil Longo to be his offensive coordinator. They're trying to switch things up. They were trying to adapt to the changing times of college football. It's a whole different vision they're taking over there, okay? It's different than what they've done in the past. A little bit. Now, they ran the ball pretty good last year. I mean, like, it wasn't like, they were tossing the ball all over. It wasn't the Big 12 or anything like that, but they've changed some things, and they're going through transition because they think that's what they need to do in order to adapt to the changing times of college football, especially in the Big Ten. Luke Fickell has not had the success that maybe you would have expected of him to have in a power program after the success he had at Cincinnati. And I don't think he should have been fired after last year. But to give him an extension all the way to 2032 and to make that money commitment is a little bit baffling to me. I don't think, he had years left on his deal.
Were you here in 2018 to 2019?
I was here. I do remember when that happened and everyone was like, really? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
So I think extensions are just a piece of paper. There will be lawyers. I guess I just look at it as doing business, but timing is everything when you have not been successful in your first 2 years. But at Wisconsin, where you've got a former football coach and athletic director that is pretty outspoken and now has a radio show. Barry Alvarez has a radio show in Madison. So, and I don't know enough about the Wisconsin landscape to know if Barry's voice still resonates. I think it's got to carry some weight with the older Badgers. But the athletic director who replaced him, Chris McIntosh, Fickell has to work out for him.
Yeah.
That has to work out at Wisconsin. He's almost got like the Rhule reset on his staff, but it's in a different vibe, though, of momentum compared to this isn't working out, and is this going to work out? Like, I look at Nebraska's additions, and it kind of makes sense. Wisconsin's for a little bit makes sense, but it's more of, okay, I messed up with Phil Longo, and we got to make a change. But the AD at Wisconsin, this has to work out. I mean, there's so much riding on Wisconsin football. Yeah. And don't you also think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, like as the Big Ten is moving forward, and now we're kind of getting a sense of, hey, how many teams are going to be in the playoff, what it's going to take to get there. Is Wisconsin one of those schools that could get left behind?
No.
You don't think so?
No, because I think they bring too much to the table. They have the history. They have the tradition. Wisconsin, over the last 15 years, has been a good football program. They've had their ups and downs, but they also do bring a lot to the table in terms of basketball. They bring a lot to the table in terms of hockey.
Yes. And just in football.
Oh, just
in football.
No, I think there are other teams in the chopping block before Wisconsin. I think there are plenty of other teams that you can look at in both conferences in the SEC and the Big Ten that you can chop off before you get there. Do I think that Wisconsin is an untouchable team? No, I don't think that's the case. And if Wisconsin were to pull back from how much they've invested into football and how serious they are about football, then yeah, maybe they could put themselves on the chopping block in that way. But this doesn't say to me that they're less invested in football or resources or anything like that. I just think this is just a weird, so he has a 3-year contract extension, but his buyout still stays within his original contract, which is up to 2029, which is a $40 million buyout.
Piece of paper.
So it's a piece of paper at that point. It's just weird news to drop. I don't think, though, I think Northwestern is going to be in that discussion. I think Vanderbilt will be in that discussion.
No, not the chopping block that you're going to remove them. I'm talking about the sport moves forward.
Oh,
and you're stuck.
I
now,
think
remember, their road game.
Sure.
Fickle showed up in the Big Ten, said, we're making up for lost time. And the schedule they've been given. Now, I like that they played the home and home with Alabama, and they have to go to Tuscaloosa. They have to go to Tuscaloosa, Michigan, Oregon. They have a stretch to begin October where they go to Michigan. They have Iowa at home. They have Ohio State at home. And then they finish October at Oregon.
So you said, sorry, I misunderstood your question. But you say, are they in the potential of being left behind, that the Big Ten and football is moving forward without them? Why did they fire Paul Chryst? They fired Paul Chryst for that reason. They fired Paul Chryst because they were like, yeah, this guy's a good coach and, he's won some games and whatever, but we have a new vision here and we need to move forward and we need to get this back on track. And in doing that, we're going to hire Luke Fickell, who completely rejuvenated and had the golden age of Cincinnati Bearcat football. That's why they did that. So they've already done this move to get out of being stuck in the mud, to get out of them not being left behind in the Big Ten. And they are still, after 2 seasons, very much in the same position they were when they fired Paul Chryst. That's not a comfortable spot to be in if you're Wisconsin football.
People in the Big Ten were cheering yesterday. I don't know if that's a good sign.
No.
Quick break. Steve Sipple, Brian Edwards still to come on a Thursday edition where it's still minus 15 outside.
Jeez.
On Gary and Matt, 1620 The Zone. All right, so this discussion about Wisconsin and Nebraska football, and Kyle, who is the diehardest Wisconsin football fan at Wisconsin Athletics, that listens to your radio station. We have our differences, but I like to interact with Kyle. Let me give you two. You tell me who this person is in the Big Ten.
Okay.
They are 8-10 in 2 years in conference play.
Okay.
Then there is a guy that is 6-12 in 2 years in conference play.
Okay.
They've both been at their respective schools for 2 years.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that 6-12 is Matt Rhule and 8-10 is Luke Fickell.
Yes. So they have exactly the same record of 12-13. Now Rhule is 13-13. Yeah, the bull. 13-13. They're both 12-13. Excuse me. So, but this also shows you where the optics of Wisconsin was when Fickell took over compared to the optics of Nebraska when Rhule took over. Because if we're gonna, what if Rhule got an extension like Fickell today? Would the same outrage happen? And Kyle would have to remind everybody they essentially have the same record, but the vibe and the whole discourse about Luke Fickell compared to Matt Rhule, trust me, is entirely different. Now, Rhule is more likely to be a public speaker and do interviews. You don't really see Fickell doing a lot of interviews. So that may have a little bit to do with it. But it's kind of interesting that these two programs where Fickell and Rhule, Matt, will always be attached, are kind of, they're running the same race right now.
So I have a couple comments, and then I have an interesting question that we can get into a conversation about just college football in general. Couple comments, though. It for sure is the optics of the relativeness of where Wisconsin football was compared to what Nebraska football was when they both took over those programs, right? Paul Chryst got fired after his 2-3 start in 2022. But the season before, they went 9-4, right? And Paul Chryst is a guy who had 4 double-digit win seasons at Wisconsin. And so Luke Fickell, while he was brought in to, re-elevate the program after it had fallen off, after, Chryst to end his tenure, went 15-10 in his last 3 seasons. And so now that's including a COVID year. So he was brought back to rejuvenate, but the taste of success has been in Wisconsin more recently. And so there's an expectation that, hey, it's been done pretty quickly before. You should do it pretty quickly as well. Matt Rhule was taking over a Nebraska football program that, for lack of a better term, was an absolute dumpster fire, that was coming off of 7 straight seasons of not making a bowl game and multiple bad hires. Okay. So Rhule has definitely gotten the benefit of the doubt because of the relative success of his program compared to Luke Fickell's relative success of the program that he took over. Okay. So that's kind of how those two compare. And you're right in the regard that Matt Rhule, if he were to get an extension today, it wouldn't necessarily so much be a, oh my God, what is Nebraska doing, as much as that happened to Wisconsin yesterday. It would be more so of a conversation of Troy Dannon and being like, okay, wow, he's really putting his stamp on Matt Rhule as his coach. He's really taking, this is his guy now. Like, this is his big thing. Like, he's going all in on Matt Rhule being the coach of Nebraska football. And now he's not the one who hired him, but if you were to extend his contract from 7 years to 10 years, and then that, messed with the buyout to the point where the buyout would already be massive, massive, massive if Matt Rhule were not to have success next season, and there would be a conversation of firing him. That I'm just saying, that would be, if this extension were to happen, it would be more about Dannon and less about why the hell would they do that. Now, here's my macro question to you about college football. So I'm looking at the past Wisconsin records here on Football Reference, and there are 3 seasons that Paul Chryst coached at Wisconsin that his college football final ranking was 8th, 6th, and 8th, meaning that there are 3 seasons that he would have made the college football playoff in today's era of football. Now, if you were to make 3 college football playoff appearances and have a shot at winning the national title, right, that would be grounds for you to consistently keep your job for an extended period of time. But does making the playoff being extended and more teams being able to make the playoff and more coaches being able to hang their hat on the fact that they got a team to qualify for the playoff, does it make it easier to keep your job because coaches can now say, hey, I made the college football playoff 2 years ago. You know that what we're doing can work. Or is it easier to lose your job because the college football playoff is expanded and now more schools are expecting you to make the CFP because it's easier now because there's more teams? I wonder where the coin flip on that is. Do coaches now have more of a, if they make the playoff, do they now have more of a resume builder to retain their job for longer periods of time because of that? Or has the expanded CFP made teams more impatient to get rid of guys quicker because there's that bar to reach?
Well, if you think of your program highly, because still it's still a small fraternity. I mean, if you're looking at the Big Ten is going to get 4 every year.
Yeah.
Man, that's tough to crack into Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon.
You got your
year.
4 right there.
Yeah. So you have to have that special like one-off. I think a bad athletic director would use it as a cop-out. But it's all about how you look at your program.
Sure.
If you devote the resources to being a high-level big boy football program and you're not getting a return on your investment, which means playing in the playoff or knocking on the door every single year, yeah, you're going to say you got to go situation. Bad athletic directors that don't give the resources to football to run to the playoff, but yet they fire their coach because he's not in the playoff, you're bad at your job as an athletic director. Now, back to Wisconsin. That's the worst Wisconsin team I've seen since Nebraska's been in the Big Ten that played here in Lincoln in November.
That is the worst Wisconsin team that I think I've seen in my life.
But the thing about Wisconsin,
same,
and there's elements that you're like, man, when Wisconsin is humming and they're developing offensive linemen and they look like Minnesota and Iowa, and that's what Nebraska's model is, and then solve that and then figure out, hey, could we add a little dose of some Ohio State with some speed and some skill and so on and so forth. But the Wisconsin thing basically was the Bo Pelini, Paul Chryst connection. Nice records. Yes. God, nice records. Yes. But how many games did you win that mattered?
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you. I could not agree more. And I wonder, and I said this to you off air, and I almost said it off air, and I was like, man, maybe I don't know if that's a statement to go, but now you've kind of alluded to it. I wonder if Wisconsin fans think of Paul Chryst a little bit like how Nebraska fans think of Bo Pelini. Now, there's a difference in demeanor and what occurred there. Hey, hold on. Remember, he F-bombed Frost in the middle of a game. Sure.
Like, I think Paul Chryst had an edge to him. I mean, he could be a knobber.
Well, I want to see.
Not to the level of Bo. Not to the level of Bo. I was about to say, but he could still. He wasn't all. Let's be honest.
There's a lot of Bo stories. Are there as many Paul Chryst stories than there are
Wisconsin?
Exactly. I wonder if that's the same.
Don't let the guy that was buying the Wisconsin sweatshirt from Walmart on the sidelines and wearing his hat that he got back in 1980. Let's don't think that he was just all. Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at his record: 10-3, 11-3, 13-1, 8-5, 10-4. COVID year, 9-4, then 2-3. Like,
there's more to the story.
There's way more to the story.
That the recruiting had fallen off.
Yeah.
And, maybe the relationships inside the building and with the new athletic director weren't. So there's more to the story than just the record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which, that was the same thing with Bo. There was way more to the story than just, if you look at the record.
It wasn't just the.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, when I first was indoctrinated into this, fraternity of being a Nebraska football media member and going to the school.
They're hazing?
You look at, like...
His hazing was the Heinrich Harburg question.
Oh.
That was a good question. I get flack for that. I will never, there are some things I will...
It was a good question.
Stand
out. It was a good
from.
Response by Mickey.
It was a terrible response from Mickey. Anyway.
Wait, we can't have one side or the other. Gotta be fair.
Hey, you created a great segment that day.
I created multiple segments. I walked into the Memorial Stadium press box and I had 3 16-20 of the zone members said, hey, thanks for the content.
Want a job?
Oh no, not then.
Said,
Not there.
man, that's the first time I've ever seen a coach laugh at a media member, but you were young. It was a good question. Good response.
When I first was, you learn more about the whole Bo Pelini situation, and you look at the record and you go, well, why did he? If you were an outsider and you just look at the record, you're like, that's a lot of winning. That's a lot of wins. I wonder what happened there.
You know what I always say about
and
the
then
Bo
I found out, and I get told a lot. Oh, there's something every week in that era.
You know what I always say about the Bo era is, how in the hell did they ever win 9? And then sometimes I will go, how did they not win more than 9?
Because, I mean, there were multiple seasons where it looked like they were stuck in the mud and they were done, and then they ended up rattling off multiple wins in a row. And they did have that weird transition period when they went into the Big Ten, and Carl Pelini is your defensive coordinator, and they were going from the Big 12 to the Big Ten, and it was very apparent. Like the first year they got to the Big Ten, they made it to the conference championship the second year, but the first year they got to the Big Ten, it was a very rough start. They ended up turning the season around because the defense got acclimated to Big Ten offenses because it was just a completely different vibe of what they were facing off in the Big 12, right? And so you can point to that as like, hey, that might have been a factor in some of what you're saying. How did they not win more, but how did they win less?
God, Wisconsin.
There was a lot of weird.
Wisconsin.
It was a weird period.
4 straight weeks in October at Michigan, home for Iowa, home for Ohio State, at Oregon. That is their October schedule. Are we going to be disappointed or sad that Wisconsin is not on Nebraska's schedule this year?
Yes.
I will too.
Because I don't like the Badgers. And I wish that if Nebraska played them more, there would be more people who didn't like the Badgers, because I do think that would actually be a really good rival for Nebraska to have.
John writes in about this is just hypothetical. This is part of the discussion after Luke Fickell got his extension yesterday. This has not happened. About Rhule extensions, just part of the discussion. I would be pissed if Rhule were given an extension today. The program is slightly better after 2 years, but he has done nothing to deserve an extension. I think it would be a shocker.
I don't think it would be a shocker. If Rhule got an extension today, I would not be shocked. Like you said, it's just a piece of paper. There are lawyers involved, whatever. It could be standard procedure, just like Wisconsin was standard procedure, but I wouldn't be shocked. There's actual momentum within the Nebraska football program right now that has been created within that athletic department.
I don't like.
I think it's deserved?
I don't like paying for hope. I like to pay for substance.
So, do I think it's deserved if he got an extension today? Absolutely not. I don't think he deserves an extension.
Yeah, and I don't.
Would I be shocked to the floor? No, I would not be shocked.
Yeah, and this is not, to my knowledge, not been a discussion. But going back,
I mean, he's got 5 more years.
This was the ESPN article. Despite a disappointing second season at Nebraska, Coach Scott Frost has received a 2-year contract extension through 2026.
Yeah. The Paul Kristen.
There will be lawyers.
Conversation is interesting.
Terry sneaks in an email here before the break. Hi, guys. Hi, Terry. To me, Wisconsin is always 20 years behind Nebraska. Wisconsin hires Alvarez, who copies Nebraska from the 70s. Now they fire their successful coach in order to hire one to modernize their offense. Just like Nebraska from the 2000s. Hope they enjoy their next 15 years in the wilderness, firing coach after coach. A lot of Bill Callahan references every time that Luke Fickell's name comes up. But
also not good.
But just look at just the different, and I know it's part of we're located in Omaha, Nebraska. They have similar records.
They do.
It's wild.
They do have similar records.
Take a quick break. Random Mike going to join us next. Steve Sipple.
Hey, I get them too. Don't worry.
Steve Sipple coming up at 9:15. Brian Edwards as well. 1620 The Zone. The middle of June. Hey,
None of that today.
things just got real in recruiting in this town. LSU offered Torrey Pittman the third, the top-notch safety over at Omaha Central in the class of 27, who may end up as a top 5 player in the class of 27 out of Omaha Central. Got offered by LSU yesterday. Game on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
All right, here is Random Mike. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. The Wisconsin game, in the scheme of things, how big was that win?
Massive. I mean, we would be looking at Matt Rhule's tenure here at Nebraska entirely differently if he didn't win that game. And also, too, Mike, to add to that, the fact they won that game the way that they did in a blowout fashion, it makes it even bigger.
It was cathartic.
It was.
Yeah, and the guy that had the game of the year, Emmett Johnson, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good game that day.
good game.
Yeah, good
come
game.
on.
Had a great game.
When Emmett was going to transfer, do you know the details of what happened to get him to change his mind? Was
Cha-ching, what? Cha-ching, cha-ching, what? So here's the deal.
I mean, do you know the details? Because
yes.
I tried to find out.
So, Emmett just needed some clarification. And I think he had some people that did not have his best interest in mind and probably pushed him towards putting his name in the portal, where it really surprised some people inside of the football program because they had seen no signs of disgruntlement. And so what it did is it allowed both parties just to have a discussion about roles and future and just to open the lines of communication. And then Nebraska took care of Emmett, and Emmett took care of Nebraska. It's just one of those things where when the portal opens, Mike, there are a lot of student athletes that have people that are in their ear that don't have their best interest.
Yeah.
And it's not always greener on the other side. And Emmett and Rhule had a good discussion. And so their relationship is probably a little bit stronger today than it has been. But it wasn't a bad relationship. It was just a very shocking move.
Yeah, but these are just unprecedented times, and you can't blame anybody for trying to find out, hey, what's out there? What am I worth?
Well, but that also sucks as a coach. And,
absolutely.
You almost have to recruit your own roster harder than you recruit to add to your roster.
Yeah.
That's why I would get out of the business. I'd be like, I'm going to the NFL.
Well, look who has.
That's true.
Starting with the greatest. But, hey, did Rhule play for Jerry Sandusky?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think that would have been his coach.
Is there a meaning?
He never mentioned
behind. Well, would you?
He does mention Paterno a lot.
Yeah, and
it's an icebreaker.
And Coach Paterno has a big part in Matt Rhule's football life, so that's not surprising. But I mean, I wouldn't. If you have a connection to Jerry Sandusky, I'm sure that you would leave that in the past.
Yes, I think we would. Was Al Golden the coach that hired Rhule, that gave him his first coaching job?
Yes.
And did you catch the speeches there at the Broyles Award?
Yes, I did. He is he's a great representative for the game of college football in the University of Nebraska.
Yeah.
And I think he tells his story about his journey to get to where he is now. And if you listen to his discussion, Mike, it makes a lot of sense he hires a lot of guys that are on the same path that he was. And like Joey McGuire giving him an opportunity, he has given other coaches an opportunity so that when they're at the Frank Broyles Award and giving a speech, they reference what Matt Rhule did for them. I mean, it's the life of a football. I mean, it's a football life that Matt Rhule has lived, and he's open to tell the story. And, it helps that he's also great as a public speaker and a son of a preacher.
Absolutely. Would you guys agree that there's a whole lot of optimism now because of who its coordinators are?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that the optimism really stems from, Mike, the fact that they were 6-6, and some would argue that their coordinator, well, not argue, but some would just say their coordinators were absolutely terrible, with their offense and the special teams. And you can say that they have massively upgraded over what they had last year. And so when you look at a team that's 6-6 and still has a really talented roster heading into next year, and now you have elevated coaching like that, I think that is points for optimism.
Hey, one last thing, Matt.
Yep.
Your hiring is biblical, as it is written in the book of Isaiah, and a child shall lead them.
All right, thanks, Mike.
I actually learned that from Kevin Harlan when Tim Duncan's first NBA playoff game happened. He said, a child shall lead them, as he scored 17 points in the fourth quarter to rally the Spurs from 16 down against Phoenix.
By the way,
Mike, to reference the Bible.
I was walking into Jimmy, the producer office, right? Which, by the way, for an office is very well kept. You guys do a good job keeping it clean. I don't know who's in charge of that.
We have cleaners.
Jimmy wasn't in the office. Jimmy was out of the office, and I was walking in there to go and grab something. And on Jimmy's computer was the 1992 San Antonio Spurs game.
It was 1990. It was game 4 against Portland, because I was actually looking for something and I just started it too late.
So it's absolutely incredible.
I remember being at said game.
5:15 in the morning, and you are just watching old San Antonio Spurs playoff games from the 90s.
They won 115-105 to tie the series at 2. It was great. It was a CBS game with the late, great Greg Gumbel.
I guess I've never looked into this, but because it's Random Mike and he brought up Matt Rhule and Jerry Sandusky this morning.
They were together.
Matt Rhule did testify when all of that was going down because Mike McQuarrie was a former teammate.
Oh, yes, I remember. Okay.
That's interesting. Well,
we're coming up on 15 years. Well, it'll be 15 next year.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to not laugh when Random Mike goes.
My story.
Well,
was
he doesn't bring him up.
Lighthearted.
Like, what would happen if Matt Rhule went up in front of the podium and goes, this great lesson I learned from Jerry Sandusky? I think that would float over as well as a lead balloon.
Yeah. And then you go, oh, wait, let me bring it back closer to Nebraska. That Graham Spanier guy. Yeah, it's one of those things you probably just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Coach, how about that weather?
People are very curious now about Random Mike and his religious beliefs or breakfast beers.
I'm going to go with breakfast beers for 200, Alex.
Makes me rethink the fact that I'm jonesing to get Bob Seger's hair from 1976.
I'll buy that. How much is that going for? I'll buy it.
No, you can't buy it. I'm like
have.
I was
up for auction. I thought someone had some
some
follicles of Bob Seger's hair.
I went down the well, no, it was actually on TikTok. I don't know why it showed up on my TikTok. But there was a 1976 concert. Bob Seger is playing, and his hair is immaculate.
He looks like Mark Olberdine.
He had some flocks flowing now. He did.
He did. I bet he did.
Are you the blessed one now?
I guess I am.
Are you familiar with that Bible verse?
No, I am not.
Remember the one that Samuel L. Jackson said in Pulp Fiction?
I triple dog dare
Too
you.
loud, too ghetto. Is that the one?
No, that was some of his later work.
I dare you. I double dog dare you.
Kendrick Lamar is the best thing that happened to my Chiefs. People don't even talk about the Chiefs Super Bowl anymore. All they do is for now 10 days they talk about Kendrick Lamar, and now they talk about the fact that Travis and Taylor probably are going to get engaged when they're on vacation here because they've already gotten a puppy. I mean,
it's over.
Yeah.
And I know that really from
experience. Is that kind of the mark that it's over? Like, all right, I'm going to marry this woman, and we're probably going to have
that's
kids
kind of a
once you get
test.
puppy?
That's like the test. If you two can handle a puppy together.
Do you have to now? Let's say you break up. Do you have to establish whose puppy it is when you buy it?
Yes.
So in the
we've
regard,
had that discussion.
Okay,
at home.
who takes the child?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had a cat involved.
Really?
The cat's name was Lexi. I actually kind of liked the cat, but for some reason, we online said, and the state of Florida said, gotcha. The cat just stayed with me for a while.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of weird.
Oh, I'm in transition. I don't know if I'll be able to have a cat. I don't care. I'm going to let this cat out on Interstate 75 and say good riddance. But I was nice to the cat because the cat was nice to me. But it did eat one of my goldfish.
Jeez. Really?
Yeah.
It jumped in the tank and it got a goldfish?
Well, I had a really
Rest
cool
in peace.
tank that sat on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it reached in there with its paw and ate the goldfish.
Like a big goldfish? Like it was a
Nah, not a huge goldfish.
Okay.
It was like a miniature goldfish.
Snack.
I wanted to
But that
get
goldfish cost me a lot of money.
in the move to Omaha.
All to feed your cat.
I was assuming that I was going to be living alone. Initially, I did not think I would have a roommate. And so I said I needed a companion, but I didn't want to get a dog because of, I wouldn't have the backyard space. So I go, okay, I wanted to get a cat. I was thinking about just getting a cat as a little cat companion if I was going to be living alone. And it turned out
You are one of the last people that I would ever think would be a cat person. Not that I'm opposed to it.
Yeah.
sure.
You don't strike me as when you walk into a room, oh, there's a cat guy.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
just
5.
thought that's kind of why I wanted it. I thought
wonder
it would be
I
really
wonder
funny.
what kind of scratching post he has in his house.
I thought it'd be really funny if
Do you
I
think he
got
has
a
a kitty
cat
condo?
because you're right. I kind of like people would be like McMaster, a cat guy, like, and I would have named him.
McCatster.
I would have named her Olive. Like it would have been a real like switch up, of like Olive or Penelope. Those are my two cat names. And then it turned out literally everyone in my family is allergic to
Catrick
cats.
Mahomes.
No.
Wise decision.
If it was a boy, if it was a boy cat, I was gonna name him Andre after
Nice.
Andre Dawson.
Yeah.
Nice.
after the
Yeah.
hawk.
Not by Lecky.
For people that are wondering, because there are many of you now are wondering if old Sharpie here will go back to my days at St. Pius X. Father McCann, Father Culver.
I miss.
Culver's.
We had a really good priest at my former high school, Father McCarthy, and today's the start of spring training, and Father McCarthy goes to every single spring training for the last 35 years.
Good on him.
He goes to Florida. He does his rounds around Florida to all the different facilities. He flies back, does our mass, and then literally at the end of the mass, flies to Arizona,
Boy,
does the rounds in Arizona.
That tithing is coming in handy for him every spring.
Yes.
All right, so it's Isaiah 11:16. I had to look this up. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. Now remember, I used to be a lector.
Really?
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I did not know this.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
In Fort Myers, I was a lector. I was told at the church that I'm supposed to go to here in Omaha, that do I have any experience of public speaking?
A little bit.
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah.
So I stood in their office and I did some speaking. They were not amused. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the young goat. The calf and the young lion and the fatling together.
Wow.
And a little child shall lead them.
Am I the little child?
I think I'm a little confused there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where's Noah. Looks like people are headed to the ark. All right, Isaiah 11:16. Good luck at the combine. Begins next week. Steve
That was a
Sipple
good one.
joins us at 9:15.
That was a good Sharpie zinger right there.
The wide receiver will also make a move to the combine. People wonder, did he lie down while he was at Nebraska and quit on his team? But you know what? While the young child in Lincoln will lead the team, Isaiah will lead his way onto an NFL roster for training camp.
Rhule 13-12.
We're back with more Gary and Matt with Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. Great selection, Jimmy.
You are, dude.
This was a good 2:30 in the morning song.
That is great. Oh. You ever cry to this song? There are people who cry to this song.
I would cry after what the Cats did to the Scurs last night.
They're not the Lions. You mean the Lions?
Lions.
That's a cat.
Okay, fair enough. I've never heard anyone call Penn State the Cats.
They have a row.
I love that. I love how every cat team, every cat like mascot college has to have the cat roar or claw after every first down.
Is that what we,
good enough for
is
a
that what we
Wildcat
miss about
down.
Kansas State?
Yes.
Yeah. For a Wildcat, first down.
Meow.
Justin Jackson, the ball carrier.
So I was
Nice.
en route from Kansas City earlier this morning, and I was watching the Field of 68 guys break down the night in college hoops. They were talking about the All-Americans if the voting happened right now.
Oh.
So they give a lot of love to Cam Jones at Marquette. Can you be a
Really?
first-team All-American and not the Big East Player of the Year?
Cam Jones is wildly like inconsistent in terms of like he can have it on and he can look like the best player in the country and which is probably why they talk about him in the All-American bracket. But when Cam Jones is off, like that's why Marquette had a scare against DePaul, and that's why Marquette had a scare against Xavier. And he didn't, I don't know. Cam Jones is a good player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But did they have Kalkbrenner on?
They've talked about him in the past, but they were more talking about the All-Americans, the 5 for All-Americans.
Yeah.
And so they included Cam Jones, and it got me to think I think Kalkbrenner is in the lead to be the Player of the Year in the Big East.
I would think so.
But if you are the first-team AP All-American and you don't win the Big East Player of the Year,
how can you? No, that would make no sense. That would make absolutely zero sense if he were to be an All-American over Kalkbrenner, but then Kalkbrenner wins the Big East Title of the Year. That's like Lamar Jackson winning All-Pro but not getting the MVP award.
That'll be a fascinating vote. It will also be fascinating. I mean, still got to keep pushing Bryce Williams for first-team All-Big Ten. Last night does not help. But you know what happens tonight? We're not going to talk basketball tonight. You know what we're going to talk and we're going to watch? We're going to watch hockey. Are you ready?
I'm so happy.
So you and I, we've kind of teased this. We haven't gotten into it because we haven't had time. But now we can talk about this.
Now we can talk about it.
I say it's great for hockey. It's very much a niche sport, but it's a great sport. Whether you broadcast it, whether you watch it, it is so much better in person than it is on TV, but that's with some other sports. And the high level of hockey and the effort, the skill, the drama has been fantastic for the sport. The ratings have been through the roof. We projected maybe 6 to 7 million people will watch tonight. The buildup has been perfect.
They've done a great job of hyping this game up.
The tickets are expensive. At the end of the day in this country, if the U.S. happens to lose tonight, which could happen, I think we'll all go about our business tomorrow. If Canada loses tonight, it's going to be a rough day in Canada as they prepare to become the 51st state. And they realize that their sport, which is their sport, we are starting to take over. I think in this country, we'll just go about our business for the most part. I think it's great for hockey. I don't see how it helps the NHL in terms of growth and people going, oh, man, this level of hockey, I'm watching when they return to the ice. I can't wait to see the Wild and the Sabres play.
I disagree. And I'll disagree. I first want to get this out of the way before we get into this discussion. Tonight is the biggest game in USA hockey history since the United States played the Soviets in 1980. Okay? And
people forget that was not the gold medal game.
It was not the gold medal game. They needed to beat Sweden the next round to win the gold medal, which they came back and did to win. But still, this is the biggest game since 1980. And the reason why is because the USA, and you can say it wasn't 2010 bigger. 2010 was for an actual gold medal. I don't think there were a lot of people who were like like it was Canada's medal to lose. Like the U.S. had a really great team that year and it was really competitive, but like Canada was the favorite going into that. It was in Vancouver. The DAC was stacked against the USA. Okay. This is so important tonight because there has actually been momentum for the last couple of years building toward this moment. There have been tournaments and players and talk about this expectation of, hey, the U.S. is coming. The U.S. is coming. Hockey's improving here. You know, the United States is getting better at hockey. And now they have an opportunity tonight to make that all come to fruition, beat Canada. And like you're right, it'll be a rough day in Canada if that were to happen. Now to our discussion. There were multiple people that I was sitting down with who are not hockey fans who are watching that hockey game on Saturday between the USA and Canada who said, I did not know that hockey was this much fun. Maybe I should watch it more. Okay. Now, whether or not those people
but
will
they're
actually
going to watch an NHL game and it won't have the same kind of buzz.
But will that actually come to fruition? Who knows? But at the same time, the fact that we are sitting in the dead period of sports and this is the most hyped game of the week, and we are talking, there are millions and millions of people across the country who are talking about a hockey game, who are talking about watching this happen, there are millions of people who did not know who some of these players are. How many people knew about the Tkachuk brothers, who knew about Dylan Larkin, who knew about Jake Gensel, who knew about Connor Hellebuck, who now see these guys play at a high level and say, man, if I ever see them on my TV screen in the future, I'm going to tune in and watch because I know who they are from the United States versus Canada games. That's an impact. I mean, that makes an impact on the league. And if you have, there might be kids who are getting into skating, who like to skate a little bit, who might watch this game tonight, who be like, you know what? I want to be like Jack Eichel, or I want to be like, Austin Matthews. Like that's an impact. And the fact that they are on this big of a stage and it's being talked about this much, regardless of whether or not it's the NHL or the sport is the NHL. The sport, in my opinion, they're the same thing. If hockey improves, the NHL improves.
There's a difference between Olympic hockey and the NHL until you get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's a whole different level. It's the red, white, and blue. I think also, I don't agree with this being the biggest moment since '80 because is Russia playing?
No,
we also have not had a tournament.
I'm not talking.
If we're going to do this the right way, this should be best 2 out of 3 instead of a 1 game off. And man, Saturday was awesome, but then they lost on Thursday night, and that's it.
It's the stakes, though, of the buildup that's been happening in the World Juniors, the buildup and the fact that they haven't played a big Olympic game like this in 11 years, the fact that there has been some tension between these two sides wanting to prove that they are better than one or the other. The USA wants to finally prove, you know what? We caught up to you. It's no longer your sport. We are here and we are doing great things. And Canada wants to say, no, little bro. No. We still run this, right? And so, yeah, are they playing for a gold medal? No. But the fact that they're just playing for pride, I think amps this up even more. The fact that there isn't a big trophy or a gold medal that they get to put around their neck, and this is this big of a deal, and they're playing this hard, and there are guys who are literally trying to come back from injury from a all-star game tournament to play in this game, speaks volumes about how much passion there is about the sport of hockey, which I think with what's going on in the NBA, doesn't the NHL look more likable? Doesn't the NHL look more likable?
Hey, you just dropped the ball over there. You fumbled on the 1 yard line.
No.
What the NHL and the NBA should never be in the same discussion.
I'm saying that I'm just saying that with the NBA's shortcomings as a product and with the NHL now having this incredible event that is gaining a ton of traction, the NBA has made the NHL look better, but the NHL has made themselves look better regardless of what the NBA is doing.
The NHL would like to have some of the NBA's problems.
Good point. Neither here nor there.
So I don't think in my world, I keep them separate. I think the NHL versus NBA discussion is ridiculous.
But the fact that we are in June and we are talking about this game so highly, and there are going to be millions of people tuning in to watch players who all play in the NHL tonight, will have a residual impact on how we look at the sport of hockey and how we look at NHL as a league.
If U.S. loses tonight, will all of the talking head shows nationally be talking about hockey tomorrow? So
it is imperative that the U.S. wins tonight.
So that's where the ratings have been great, but you compare this to the regular season of NHL ratings outside of the Stanley Cup final, it makes it look like the NHL regular season has no impact whatsoever. I'm glad that the international, it's also this. Red, white, and blue resonates in this country. You put red, white, and blue on somebody, we're going to watch, we're going to cheer, we're going to have passion. And in hockey, every time we roll around in the Olympics or World Juniors are getting a lot more attention, and they're going to be back in this country next year, and the U.S. is on a run, red, white, and blue go a long way. But my favorite team doesn't wear red, white, and blue. They wear black and gold, and I'm rooting for my best player to lose tonight in 87.
There are a lot of people who do not watch hockey who are going to watch this hockey game tonight. There are players that are on both sides of the ice that not a lot of people know about, but they are the main stars of the NHL, and their names are going to get out there. Whether or not you want to talk about the size of the impact, whether it's big, whether it's small, it's still an impact, okay? And even though there's being an impact, that's good for the league. No matter what the impact is, it's good for the league. I think that's my argument.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
And I know you're not coming from a place of negativity. You want the NHL to succeed.
I just think it's a sport that I'm glad that it's gotten a week full of attention. I wish it was like best 2 out of 3. I wish Russia was in it. I wish there were more countries. I mean, I love Olympic hockey. I think this is a drive-by. It's been great, but people will go and watch a Monday night game from the XL Energy Center, and it won't be the same, and they'll be like, oh, what happened?
There's going to be 6.5 to 7 million people watching hockey tonight. No matter how you spin it, that's good for the NHL. It's good for the NHL that the sport that they are procuring on national TV week in and week out is getting 7 million people on a Thursday to sit down and watch.
But why does ESPN promote Four Nations more than they promote their own NHL package?
You're right, because it has to do with the red, white, and blue, and it has to do with Canada. I'm not denying that.
That's why I think the sport is great. It doesn't do anything for the NHL.
Where do all roads lead back to? Where do all these guys who are stepping on the ice play? If one person has a connection with one player on the ice and it leads them to watch more of those games, and I'm not denying the fact that, yes, the product that you'll see on a regular NHL game is going to be worse than what you're going to see tonight. But if multiple people, thousands, hundreds of thousands, doesn't matter, tune in and have a connection with a guy because this game happened and they end up becoming a fan of that player or know more about their team, then it's a positive impact for the NHL. And you know what? They're doing it on a week where it's supposed to be just a throwaway break. This week is supposed to be nothing for the NHL. The All-Star games have not mattered for years in the NHL. And just this random year where all the stars are aligned, where the perfect storm has come in, where you have international tension and past events, and the fact that this hasn't happened in a while, the fact that this is all colliding and they're able to take advantage of it and put their sport on the biggest stage, it's massive for the NHL.
I don't think there'll be fights right away.
Second period fight.
Unless there's a booing of the anthem, because the seriousness of the game will change the tone. But if the anthem is booed, which I hope people don't, I hope people sing "Oh Canada" and they sing the national anthem. I already said it's going to be the loudest national anthem ever sung at a professional sporting event inside of TD Garden tonight. But I hope people, because some people might have learned the words to "Oh Canada" before they learned the words to our national anthem. I hope they sing it loud, really, really loud, because there will be plenty of Canadians in the building as well. I mean, it's going to be great. The inside of the place, that's why tickets are on the level of the Stanley Cup final for this tonight. I mean, they're expensive. They're really expensive. I mean, you can't just show up with a bag full of loonies and think you're going to get in tonight.
This is by the way, cannot be repeated. This is a novelty event, okay? Because of the delay of the Olympics, the fact the NHL players haven't been able to be there, because of the circumstances of the World Juniors and the USA's dominance of that in the last couple of tournaments. Like, they're not I don't think they should do a Four Nations every year. They're going to do like that World Cup tournament. We'll see how that turns out. But this is I really do believe this is a once-in-a-lifetime sporting event. This is a once-in-a-lifetime sporting event. So tune in, watch it, and good for the people who get to be there live.
And if they win, we'll talk about it tomorrow. If they don't, then we won't.
Yeah, simple as that.
Kind of where the sport of hockey is, unfortunately.
The sport of hockey we always think of it as a Canadian sport. If they win tonight, we think of it a little bit differently. And you know who that's great for? That's great for the NHL.
Throw the gauntlet down.
USA needs to win this tonight.
All right, Steve Simple is going to join us here in a little bit. Brian Edwards as well on 1620 The Zone. I've determined that maybe the worst movie ever is Out.
I'm listening.
Out?
Flight Risk with Mark Wahlberg is going to be the worst movie ever.
Even surpassing The Great Geely?
Going to be awful.
Is it bad?
It looks so bad. Why? Why did we make this movie?
I'm in the minority here.
It's going to get the Razzies.
I saw the trailer for it, and I was actually intrigued.
Because it was so bad?
No, because I thought it was... You never see Mark Wahlberg as the villain. Or very rarely nowadays. Like currently right now.
He hasn't seen Fear.
No. I know that if you can go back into the capsule, he's played villains before, but in a recent run...
Speaking of roller coasters, or no, that's a Ferris wheel.
Mark Wahlberg, more oftentimes than not, is the hero and not the villain. I was interested. It piqued my intrigue that he was the villain. So I thought it was interesting. But what's the Rotten Tomatoes score?
Not good. Yeah.
But it's early. That's what I said last night.
That it's early?
And then it was 25-12, and I was like, well, got a text from Matt. I think we're done here.
Yeah, Sean on Twitter tried baiting me into do a double or nothing. I know better than that, Sean. Where are my donuts, bud?
They're coming. It's been cold.
All my donuts.
Tim says, Flight Risk looks like one of those movies that should go straight DVD.
Like The Chaperone?
That's when you know it's bad. Hey, I didn't catch you guys in the theater. Oh no, look at this. We got a little DVD for you.
Have you seen Captain America: Brave New World?
I have not. I've been a little busy.
It's getting trashed, unfortunately.
Really, it's doing really well at the box office.
No, people are going, but the tomato meter hasn't been great for it. I don't know. I think Marvel is dealing. Marvel MCU fans have now become 90s NBA fans.
Whoa. Okay, I'm listening.
It does not
Detroit basketball.
It just it does not matter the quality.
Which one's Karl Malone?
It does not.
Are you
matter
saying they don't
quality.
have the movie doesn't have the heart of a champion? Like
it doesn't have that.
Rudy T is not narrating it.
There's no John Paxson to hit a winning shot.
Let me tell you something right now. These new movies that the MCU's coming out with, they don't have the killer instinct, right? They're not physical enough. They don't understand the grind, and the pride and the passion it takes to make movies anymore. It's just back in my day when they released movies like Iron Man and Thor Ragnarok, man, I mean, those movies they just made you feel something. These new movies,
like
they don't
IV.
get it. They're soft. They're entitled, these movies. That's what MCU fans have turned into. Nothing will ever be good enough than what they experienced for the first time during the Infinity Saga. And so now they just crap on every movie.
Man, Elijah in 95, unstoppable.
It's never good enough. They're becoming MCU fans are becoming insufferable.
Well, let me give you so being on the road, I've had a chance to watch some stuff, and yesterday Netflix dropped their Court of Gold, which is a in-depth behind-the-scenes look at the Olympics.
So I started that. It looks really good.
Yeah, it is really, really good. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and it's not just the U.S.
Oh no,
it's like all of the Olympic teams. Well, let's see. Primarily, it was USA, France. They had Canada because they had Shea. They had Jokic, who's amazingly just turned 30 yesterday. That's a hell of a career for a guy that just turned 30.
He's going to end up top 10 of all time. Probably. You can make an argument. He might even be right now. Seriously. How good he's been on the offensive end. I mean, he is statistically one of the greatest offensive players of all time already. And he's got probably another 5-6 years of his prime.
That's why I'm going to wait. In about 6 years, I'll get back to this conversation. I'm not discounting it.
He's getting there. And he plays a type of basketball which is sustainable. It's a sustainable type of basketball.
Hold on to that for about 6-7 years.
I will put that in my back pocket.
Because I don't know who you would knock out of. You're saying right now.
I'm saying that
because I don't know who you'd knock out of the top 10.
He's already in my opinion, he's already top 15 with what he's done.
You couched it a little bit. Good on you.
He's top 15. He's there. He's knocking on the door.
But in this Court of Gold, it is well worth it. Kevin Durant cries. They have a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. You get a little insight into Steve Kerr's coaching. Steph Curry is a G. I mean, he's a good dude who is he's an assassin. is basically what he is. And then he doesn't want to be the face of the NBA. The trash-talking Anthony Edwards, his bravado is off the charts.
Did you see him with Barack Obama? Cool as a cat. Could not care less that he was the former president of the United States. No. And he goes, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm a killer. I'm sorry, man. I mean, he is not
I can't say
fighting
about
away
Ant-Man anymore. I'm still sorry.
He is never beating the Baby Jordan allegations. He's just not.
Harold Miner?
He plays too much like him. He looks too much like him.
That's the original Baby Jordan.
Like
That's the only Baby
People
Jordan.
forget Harold Miner went crazy at the Devaney Center for USC one night.
Yeah. Then the PA guy
People
got in
forget
trouble.
that the next Jordan wasn't Kobe. That the next face of the league was Grant Hill. And I think about that all the time. If he just didn't suffer all those injuries when he was in Detroit.
He tried to take Tim Duncan from San Antonio, so he got what he deserved.
Hank writes in, this is a complete change of things. He goes, hey, did you know that Eastbound and Down is now airing on True TV?
Nice. I like Eastbound and Down.
Danny McBride is a very underrated character.
Yeah.
I don't know where this.
You don't know where this is going?
I watched all the Eastbound and Down. I thought they were coming back. I don't know where this email came from, but I'm in agreement here. Why? So, but watching it on True TV, they've taken everything out, right? Or is True TV let stuff slip?
I don't know. I haven't watched it on True TV.
Can you do Eastbound and Down on True TV?
It's like Die Hard on USA. That's not happening.
So it's really funny. If you look at Nikola Jokic's stats, right, on Google, it'll go and it'll show you his most recent games, right? And it'll say versus Magic, at Suns, versus Trailblazers. And then it'll go versus Young Stars, versus Shaq's OGs.
Delete.
Like those were two sanctioned games, and where we need to know the statistics of which Nikola Jokic accomplished there.
Don Man X says everything but the F-bomb. They let it fly. I watched last night. Okay, but Danny McBride does like to say F a lot.
Danny McBride is,
I think,
a good actor.
I think when your character is built around the F-bomb and you take out the F-bomb, do you still have the character?
No,
that's a deep question.
Roy Kent in Ted Lasso. Like you can't have.
Like you're
Roy
saying,
Kent.
if Ted Lasso came to ABC,
yeah,
his character would be shunned.
It'd be done. No, his character.
Like, I don't get his character.
His character is being rude and mean and a Grinch and like saying the F-bomb very often and very nicely and very funnily.
I mean, the whole answer to this is just run it on McAfee's show.
Yeah, apparently. So is ESPN? I thought about this. Is ESPN paying just these FCC fines out the back pocket, or does the FCC not care anymore? Or
so there was explained when he first started that the.
I know that it's his show and it's just licensed by ESPN, but I'm even just talking about game day. Like on game day, they're saying the S word and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we're past that now. I think that can slip right through the old goalie.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
it's just words.
We've gone from fining people for a nip slip to letting them just drop
it out there.
Just drop it. Steve Sipple, he'll be in next. He'll just swear up a storm. What do you think it would take to get Sipple to drop a cuss word?
I don't think that much.
Put on your seatbelt, sir.
He doesn't. Back in the day when Sip and I were betting on ponies at State Fair Park,
oh my God,
there would be a little bit of Columbus slang come out.
You know,
I think he's cleaned it up.
We got to be careful here, guys, because Nebraska basketball just sucks. It's just terrible.
You're gonna storm the court on Monday night. Come on, man. You're gonna follow the rule. You're gonna wear what color you're supposed to wear in the stripe out.
You're talking to me?
You're gonna take your kid. You're gonna put him in the baby race at halftime.
I didn't see. Now I know you're not talking about me.
And then you're like, Dusty May, go to Indiana. A Monday night game at PBA. I mean, the Big Ten just owns every night, but how about a Monday night game at PBA against Michigan? It's happened in the past. People forget Nebraska pulled a major upset on a Monday night at Pinnacle Bank Arena. How soon will you forget about what happened, that abomination last night?
It's going to take a while.
I think Fred should walk out with both hands bandaged on Monday night.
Just, you know what? Fredford just walk out looking like a mummy. Well, it must have been a rough week of practice for the Huskers. Fred is just fully banged up.
All right, tips next on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome in. We're having a discussion about top 10 lists of NBA players.
He's not making that up.
No, it would be, that's a segment that we can have in July, and it could probably carry the entire show.
Hey, Sip likes these kind of conversations. Steve Sipple from on3.com, Husker Online, and 93.7 The Ticket joins us. Good morning.
Morning, Sip.
Hi, Matt and Gary. Yeah, I do like those kind of conversations. In fact, I was interested in what you came up with.
Okay, so let me just give you a guy that's on the back end. Because I think for the most part we agree on the first couple on the front end.
Yes.
Do you think Shaquille O'Neal is a top 10 all-time player?
Whoa. No,
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I think he's a top 20 all-time player, probably. Now, this is, when you're doing it off the cuff, you don't have all the names in front of you.
Sure.
It's a little difficult.
We'll help you.
No, I've never thought of him that way. No.
When you think of this, because this is actually an interesting conversation, not just an NBA type deal. This is like every list type deal. Do you look at the entirety of the career, or do you look at like at peak?
God, that's a good question. I mean, can't you just? I try to almost meld all of it.
Okay.
I just try to meld all of it in my mind and not have too many separators.
So,
yeah.
Where would Larry Bird then fall in your?
I can't get him in the top 10. Probably,
Okay.
I'd like to.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players. I just can't get him in there.
It's a little too much competition now, right? I mean, the impact on the game is incredibly high, but if we're looking at the game in the lens that we look through now, I just think that there are just too many bigger and more athletic players than him, despite the fact he's top 15. No one's disputing that.
I think you can. I don't know, Matt. I mean,
Okay.
you sit down and start typing them out. It's tough to fit the top 15. You might have to shoehorn him in the top 15. I love him. I don't know. He's arguably my favorite player at one point. But it's a really. I love the discussion. I love this sort of discussion, particularly with the NBA, because it is so challenging.
It is.
And it's just, when you talk about the top 15 guys ever, I mean, first of all, you're just leaving incredible players out, So anyway,
Yes.
I do this a lot with my grandson, and it's hard because everybody's a little different the way they look at it.
They are because there are a little bit old schooler NBA people that will say, "Hey, what about Bird winning 3 straight MVPs and Wilt and Bill did that and he's got 5 rings?" But yes, I know these are discussions like, okay, so sticking with this and not just basketball, do we really enjoy the GOAT discussions like we've had in the NBA and we've had in the NFL ad nauseum now for a few years?
I think they were. There was a time when there were pretty good discussions and they were hot and it was kind of fun, but no, it's passe. It's over.
Do you think we've related our GOAT opinions too much to our personalities? That now to like be a LeBron guy or to be a Jordan guy or to be a Brady guy or to be a Mahomes guy, it might say too much about someone, or we think it says something about someone?
No, I don't. That's a good question. No, I think it's largely an age discussion.
Sure.
I mean, I just feel like when I do the GOAT discussion with LeBron and Michael, it's always, people my age, they're adamant that it's Jordan, and people out, and my grandson Alex, who's 19, he's adamant. He's incredibly eloquent in making the case for LeBron, but I don't see it. Like he'll never swing, and I think I often think it cuts along just an age. It just depends on your age is.
Yeah, like last night. So LeBron, you wouldn't know he was 40 last night. Runs the floor and takes out his anger on Mark Williams by yamming it over him. And you're like, damn, that guy's 40. Could Jordan do that as 40? Yeah, these discussions are fun when we're sitting around a bar, but sometimes they just they make your head.
You.
So does the discourse on Fred Hoiberg after a night like last night exhaust you as well? Because every time Nebraska loses a game like that, I get the Tim Miles guys that hop into my discussion on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't. It's sort of a.
Isn't it the life of a Nebraska basketball fan as last night?
This is a. I don't know. It's sort of uncomfortable. Fred's so popular, and I think he's doing a pretty good job. But there's a bottom line element to it that I look at it, and I can be really irrational about stuff like this. And I'm not as accepting of the fact that there's one in. He hasn't had an NCAA tournament win in 6 seasons, and now it's looking like now it might go 7. I guess it's not so much a commentary on Fred with me. It's not. It's a commentary on Nebraska and Nebraska fans' incredible acceptance level. I'm always taken aback by how accepting the fans and media are of abject mediocrity. I mean, it's just amazing to me. Like if he gets to 7 years or 6 years without an NCAA tournament win, most coaches would never make it that far. I mean, especially with his overall record, they just don't. And the thing I say over and over is, if I were an agent, I would do all I can to get the Nebraska job. It is the best job in college basketball by far. They will build a statue if you win one tournament game, which is nothing really. I mean, it's really nothing. But that's where we're at. I think it's an oddity when it comes to sports discussions. How the expectations are. I mean, they are incredibly low here.
So I've had this discussion before, Sip, about relative success and how you can't really, it's hard to judge Fred on relative success because relatively Nebraska has not been successful at basketball. So when, accomplishing what he's accomplished, he's already accomplished a lot relatively, right? But my question to you is, in your mind, what should year in and year out expectations of the program then be?
I mean, if you're here for 6 years as a head coach, I think you should be in the NCAA tournament half the time and have a few wins. But it's escaped everybody. I don't know how. There's no good explanation for it, except they haven't had the right coach, and so it's been elusive that way. I think Fred. Like I said, I hate this discussion because I always feel like I'm attacking Fred. I'm not. I think he's done it. I wouldn't fire him. I mean, come on. I think they're going to make the tournament. I'm pretty sure they're going to make the tournament.
Yeah.
And they have a shot to win. So this is not really a Fred discussion. It's more to me of a expectation discussion.
And it's a discussion on a morning after they lost to a program that doesn't care about men's basketball, and last night's game was played in a cave, and the team that got their ass kicked is someone who is from a school that people care about basketball, and they're a tortured fan base. That also does not help the discourse this morning. And then on top of that, the manner that game played out.
Yeah, you know what? All of that's true. I have a more global view of it. I think it's hard for some people to grasp, but that bothers me. All that bothers me, of course. But it bothers me more that, like, I was at Planet Fitness. You don't have to say which one. Last tip-off. I missed the first 12 minutes of game time. So I was just wrapping up. And it's like when I'm out, people pay attention. It wasn't on the monitors. Nobody was asking for it to be on the monitors. That's what I'm talking about. I've been to, where we go for wings during games. There's nobody. It's not. And I'm always like, I guess that's okay. I guess that's okay with the AD. I guess that's okay with everybody. That nobody really in the arena's full, but how much of that is undying loyalty to the program, and versus just it's a fun atmosphere. It's a fun time to go down to that area.
Simple. Are you saying that Troy Dannon should be concerned because people don't want the game on your local Planet Fitness?
No, I think any AD just any. This isn't a Dannon.
No.
Over. It's an overall global Nebraska basketball discussion. The expectation level to me is incredibly low, and the level of interest to me it's just, if they get the tournament, we're interested, but that's about it. I mean,
Okay, I'm gonna give you a little. You made an interesting point because Miles was the head coach, and I was with some friends that were playing on the road, and we were driving back from Lincoln. We had to go to Lincoln to do something. And we stopped in Ashland at Casey's East Side Saloon. And, you'd think Nebraska basketball is on the road tonight. They're going to have the game on. They didn't have the game on. And we asked for them to put the game on, and the person behind the bar said, yeah, no problem. But I'm like, okay, if Nebraska basketball is a big thing, and this, right off of 6, they're in Ashland, they've got the game on. That's a good point. Like, in this town, when Creighton is playing, the game's on TV. Nebraska basketball needs to be on TV where everybody knows, oh, yeah, they're playing tonight. I don't care if it's Penn State. I don't care if it's Northwestern, whether it's in Lincoln or on the road. So they have the game on for the Patriots. This place didn't, and they had Husker flags up, which I thought was kind of wrong.
My guess is if I went around the gym and asked people, like, if you even know Nebraska's playing, most of them wouldn't even know. There's a 5:30 kickoff, which is a little weird too. No, that's what it is. Like I said, I just want to emphasize. This isn't really a Hoiberg discussion. Not that it's not a Dan discussion. Okay, can I put it to you this way?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It goes back 52 years. Okay, I'm talking 52 years of following. All right, I've been following Nebraska basketball closely, more intently than football, for 52 years.
There's a lot of people like you, Sip, which is interesting.
Yeah, they haven't won an NCAA tournament game. They rarely get to the tournament. Okay? It's 52 years of this. It's crazy if you think about it. It's crazy that I even care at this point. It's ludicrous if you think about, if you frame it up that way. It's 52 years of thinking, okay, this is the year. Oh, come on, man. What holds it back?
Yeah, that was going to be my question, Sip. What do you think holds it back? Why do you think it's been this long?
Damn Fred Hare and Stu Lance.
I don't know. Okay. You know what my answer is?
Sure.
This is the most frustrating thing about it. Nothing holds it back. Nothing. Mm-hmm. There should be nothing. What's the excuse? There's none.
I think the two excuses would be the lack of, just traditional success, and the fact that it also isn't a basketball school. Basketball will never be the top sport at Nebraska. It'll always be football. And so I think the outlook of that is a negativity toward Nebraska basketball.
How can FAU make the Final Four?
Okay. No one's pushing back there.
How can San Diego State?
Yeah.
Really, do they got more than Nebraska? I mean, come on. I mean, you can go up and down the lineup. Just look at teams that won first round.
Sure. No, hell. I mean, you're talking to a guy who rooted for Northwestern basketball. Like I know what you're talking about in that regard of the frustration of not being able to even make the tournament, let alone to win the game. But
there's
nothing
holding back Nebraska. There's nothing.
So it's just a string of bad hires then, or?
Well, I haven't got the right guy. That's probably as good as I can do.
Yeah, we had our moment with Danny. But we'll see you at the tailgate in shorts on Monday night against Michigan. Let's shift to football. As we're all trying to get to understand what the SEC and the Big Ten wants in terms of straight seeding playoff auto bids. Is that good for Nebraska?
The way are you talking about the 4 autos in the Big Ten?
Yes.
4 autos in the SEC, 2 ACC. Yeah, it's good for Nebraska. It's good for the Big Ten. It's good for the SEC. Is it good for everybody? I mean, my take is no. I don't like the way it's trending. I don't like the way the SEC and the Big Ten holds a gun to everybody like they did last year at this time and said, hey, we'll break off if you don't go along with us. Do I think that's healthy for globally for college football? No, I don't think it is at all. It's unappealing to a lot of people. I'm starting to see people like Michael Wilbon speak out against it. I completely agree with where they're coming from. I feel it feels really odd to me, the artificial nature of the seeding where it's pre-seeded, where I would think you'd want to let a season play out before you determine this particular conference is going to have 4 seats. This other conference is going to have 4 seats. This other conference is going to have 2. What? Really? We're doing this in advance. No, nothing. It's all. It's off-putting, but I guess people always say to me, just go with it. Fans seem to like it, so not all though. And but to answer your question, yeah, it's good for Nebraska. I mean, of course it's good. If you're in the Big Ten and the SEC, everything's great. So that's kind of where that is.
So Matt Rhule had this hour-long discussion with Josh Pate. Had that interview, and they talked about how, as of right now, that the NFL and the college football are very, very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and I agree with them, they both made incredible points about the differences between the two. But where we're trending, I think it's safe to say that we're going to get at some point, now it's not going to be next year or the year after that, but we're going to get very, very close to that NFL model of 40 teams, 2 divisions, whatever it may be. Is that safe? First off, is that safe enough to say, do you think? Or do you think it's going to be drastically different?
Hard to say. I hope it's wrong. I mean, I know that's what Matt Rhule talked about. I hope he's wrong. I mean, I've been hearing people say that like Frost said that. I mean, I vividly remember Frost coming off the podium at Big Ten Media Days. It must have been 2021. Him taking a chaw out of his mouth and throwing it inside and saying that, hey, man, this is going to 40 or 50. Maybe there's going to be some relegation where you can play your way in, and this is where it's going. So that was 4 years ago. The question I would have, and the question I had for Frost is, okay, who you kicking out here?
Yeah.
Who's not going to make it? If it's 40, who's not in? Who's not in?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now it sounds kind of good when you just say it like, yeah, the top 40. Okay. All right. There's going to be some big time programs left out of that.
Yeah.
So, no, none of it sounds appealing to me, but I like college football. Hell, I liked it in 1985. I thought it was great. I don't even know what it looked. I don't even know what to say about it.
I think, though, Steve, that part of the appeal of college football was that it was different than the NFL, that it was a different product.
Because we had regionalization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, how much of a negative factor do you think that it is just not going to be different, or it's trending toward not being different at all? And do you think it'll have a negative impact, or is it football's football? People are still going to watch it on Saturdays.
That's a good. I mean, wouldn't the ratings tell you right now that people are still largely entertained?
Yes.
And that's not a problem. I'd say it's not a problem in this moment. And I hope that, God, for our jobs, for our livelihoods.
I hope you're right.
I hope it stays that way. I hope there's tolerance. I hope it doesn't change too much. I don't. It's really the conversations are in some ways interesting, in some ways loathsome. Because the loathsome part is just it's just so money oriented. It's just everything is about money.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like things. It just every discussion you have about college football this time of year is about money. It's all money driven, and who can, and that's, I don't know. To me, that gets a little old.
It's great.
We don't talk about the competition much until August 31st.
That is true. That bugs me like you. Greed and favoritism. We'll get you out of here. Our guest who loved college football back in 1985 and has been wondering for 52 years about Nebraska basketball. E.J. Barthel, how serious was Penn State and Texas's interest?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, if Houston, or what's it called? Let's just say the Houston newspaper reports that there was a discussion. I'm confident there was a discussion on the Penn State site.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind there was some sort of discussion, and so I'd say there was some degree of seriousness to it, and I would totally understand. Barthel's been at Penn State. He's worked for Franklin, so that all makes sense. In fact, the whole picture makes sense to me that he might be interested in two programs that are in everybody's top 5. Two programs that have great chances to win it all next year. If he was interested, I would totally understand that. I think it's great that he's back here. I think he's this will be a 6th year with Matt Rhule.
Mm-hmm.
If you trust Matt Rhule, then then you would say it's probably good that Barthel's back. Matt knows him very well. And I personally think he's done a pretty good job here. And I want to see what Ives looks like now. I want to see what Jamarian Parker looks like now. But I like the work he's done in developing Emmett Johnson. I liked where they were going with Dante Dowdell. Then the rug got pulled out from under him by a team that came in with a lot of money and kind of probably a desperate move. So, yeah, I'm glad he's back. I think he deserves to be back.
All right. Sip, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for accommodating us. We always enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, it's a great one. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, what's your what's your routine when you go to Planet Fitness? Like, what do you start on?
What's your split?
I'm 58.
So
I just try to muddle through. But it just becomes at 58 very machine oriented.
Okay.
They have the machines, and it gets the free-weight thing.
Hey, that ain't a 58-year-old thing. I use machines a lot too. They're a great product.
Yeah, and I'm a big proponent of Planet Fitness. I think it's a wonderful little spot in this world, and the whole. I've been there. I've been there 2 years. I've never had one issue.
You still hitting the heavy bag? You still hitting the heavy bag?
No, I can't. Shoulders are bad.
That's too bad.
So no, everything has to kind of revolve around bad shoulders.
Okay. Well, maybe one day we'll see you there.
That would be wonderful.
That would be interesting. Sip, thank you.
All right, take care, guys.
That was well worth the wait.
That was incredible because he went from one of the most knowledgeable, respected writers, someone that I love to talk to, into Steve from Lincoln real quick when he was talking about Nebraska basketball.
I'm telling you, it is the sport that it's the most tortured fan base. And last night was like the epitome of being a Nebraska basketball fan, where they take you to State College and you're like, geez, Penn State's terrible.
And Matt and I saw it coming.
Then the game starts and you're like, Jesus, who is Penn State and who is Nebraska? So but then if this is in true Nebraska basketball form, you know what'll happen on Monday night.
They're going to win.
Oh, yes.
Michigan will win at Michigan State. Michigan will be getting all kinds of love. They'll slide inside of the top 10. They'll come to Lincoln on Monday. Nebraska will have the Turkish nightmare back, and they will find a way to win the game. People will storm the floor. Nebraska will lock it up for the NCAA. And Tuesday morning, people will be like, you know what? This is why you keep a guy like Fred.
Guess the spread for Michigan versus Nebraska.
I'm not going to because I think it's going to depend on the health of Berkey. And Fred, by the way, tried to be optimistic, and then he tried to I don't want to give anything away. Like all in the same breath when he was asked about him last night after the game. I just want to see what Michigan does against Michigan State.
Okay, fair enough.
Frankie.
Yeah, Golden. Michigan's Dusty May's got a thing going now. They go from the bottom when it just flamed out with Juwan Howard to making a home run higher.
Oh my God.
And Indiana people are like, what the?
And they got dude.
He's an Indiana guy. He's a Bobby Knight guy.
How did they get dudes so quickly too?
That's part of the whole hiring process. Money. You hire guys that have connections, and the best player, one of the best players on Michigan's roster. Where was he last year?
Yale. One was at Yale, and one was at Florida Atlantic University,
playing for Dusty May.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how you do it. That's why, if Nebraska had an opening at running back, and I know Mosey was the guy that I would okay.
Yeah.
But honestly, any open position now in the portal world, you have to think about that.
1,000,000%.
I mean, I know there was a connection with the Cale Shorts, but you also have to be like, man, I got some young wide receivers at Kentucky that might be a little interested, and they like their position coach. I've talked to him during the season. He likes his guys. You have to kind of, if you're a coach or an AD hiring somebody, you have to think that way of, okay, who are they going to bring?
And didn't Nebraska kind of miss that with Tony White, who came from Syracuse? Those Syracuse defenses were pretty good. And one guy came over. And it was
Put some respect on Thompson's name.
And it was like your fifth linebacker. It was one guy.
Wow.
You know?
Well, okay.
You got to think about it. I totally agree. You have to think about it.
You don't think Mike Norvell was thinking, hey, if I hire Tony White and Terrence Knight?
Oh, my God. Yeah, I get James Williams.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you have to assume they had shots at Jamari Butler, Princewell, and all those other guys. But, yeah, I mean, that's what you have to think, too. We've had this discussion before where if you're hiring someone, you got to look at guys who can come help you right away.
All right, coming up next, Brian Edwards. He's been on a heater in the NBA.
Oh, man.
You think he'll dabble in the Four Nations tonight?
I think that Brian knows his strengths. KYP, know your personnel. Brian's personnel, that's NBA. I think he's sticking there. We'll see.
Our Vegas Insider joins us next. Time to talk to a man who's on an NBA heater, among other things. His Florida Gators are roaring towards a number one seed. It is the senior handicapper at Vegas Insider. Vegas B. Edwards on Twitter. It's Brian Edwards. Good morning. Good morning. B.
Brian?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Hey!
All right.
For a minute.
All right.
Oh, hey. I think I was muted or something.
Good morning. First of all, kudos on your Gators. But let's start here before we get into some of the things you like on the weekend. UFC featherweight title vacated last night. That was a little bit of a shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. And Dana said they're going to announce Toporia's next fight soon, presumably against Islam Makhachev for the 155 belt. Bet Online has Makhachev minus 280 to Topuria plus 220. And looking at the odds for Volkanovski, obviously going to fight Diego Lopez in Miami in the UFC. Is that 314?
It's 314.
314?
Yes.
Yeah. I believe it's April 12th. And Volkanovski minus 142 at DraftKings, Lopez plus 120. And then Chandler and Patty the Batty in the co-main 5-rounder. Pick them minus 110 either way at DraftKings right now. But Chandler's favored at a couple other books, minus 120 at FanDuel, minus 143 at BetRivers.
That's interesting. I kind of like the underdogs or the odds for both the main events, Brian, with Lopez and with Topuria. Are you kind of in stride with me? What do you think about that?
Well, I can get on board with Lopez.
Okay.
Although I have tons of respect for Volk, but I mean Lopez is just on fire right now.
Yeah.
And he's that young rising star. As for Makhachev and Topuria, I would lean Makhachev, although I don't know that I'm not going to bet him at minus 280.
Yeah.
That's too expensive.
Too expensive.
It's Topuria going up in weight, but Topuria is a monster. If he can stop the takedowns, I think he can he has the advantage standing, but can he stop the takedowns? Not many can stop the takedowns from Makhachev or Nurmagomedov, obviously Habib, and because they're spitting images pretty much. Maybe I think I would prefer Khabib in his prime, but Makhachev isn't far off.
All right, let's shift to the NBA. As I mentioned, you've been a nice little roll with the NBA. NBA came back last night. I have no idea why they just said, "Hey, let's have the Lakers and the Hornets play late Wednesday night." But Charlotte at some places plus 560 won the game. Now, two games that you like, and one involves the Lakers. Portland and the Lakers. Lakers come back and they play a lot early. Luka hasn't been great in his first three games. And then Atlanta and Orlando. Let's start with the game out west. Blazers, who are playing better of late, taking on the Lakers.
Yeah, so Portland has won 6 in a row at home and 7 of 8, and they've covered 8 in a row at home. Now they were absolutely on fire, and I've caught like 4 or 5 games of them at the tail end of a 11-0 ATS run, but they lost several on the road before the break. Now DeAndre Ayton is out. Excuse me, and they've got 3 guys questionable: Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, and Scoot Henderson. If 1 or 2 of those guys get upgraded, I'm going to take Portland plus 3. I might take them anyway, and that's certainly my lean. But I am, I'm not going to be aggressive with it until the injury situation becomes clear. But Lakers in the back-to-back spot, Portland at home, where they've covered 8 in a row and 6 in a row at home outright. So I'm leaning Portland, but I'm watching the injury report.
We have a battle in California in college basketball that you really, really like. University of San Diego is laying 13 points when they go on the road to take on Cal Poly. What do you like in that?
Yeah, you see San Diego. This team is really good, and it's going to be a really tough out in the dance. They've got to beat UC Irvine in their, I guess that's the Big West tournament. I don't know if they would get an at-large. They're 22-4 straight up, 19-5 against the spread. They do have a win at Utah State. That's a quad 1 win, but they've won 7 in a row, both straight up and against the spread, and they've won by margins of 25, 19, 18, 20, 11 being the outlier because they're laying 13 tonight, and then 25 and 14, 9-2 against the spread, 11 double-digit favorite spots this year, and 17 of their 22 wins have been by double digits.
and they beat Cal Poly 95-68 back in January. So UC San Diego -13 against Cal Poly late night tonight.
Hey, let's look, a couple of look-ahead lines of games this weekend. So Mizzou wins last night. They put up 110 on number 4 Alabama. Now they go to Bud Walton. Arkansas, that they had a chance against Auburn last night in the last couple of minutes, but Auburn pulls that game out. The game's at Bud Walton. Mizzou has been nice against the spread. What do you think the line will be, and where would you lean for Mizzou, Arkansas to Saturday night on ESPN?
Yeah, so I made Mizzou -3.5, but most of my numbers for Mizzou have been a little, more favorite, more biased toward Mizzou compared to. I don't think it's going to be 3.5. Is my point, because I think I'm a lot higher on Mizzou than others, and I do have an 80-1 ticket on them from like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, I got a Florida one 35-1 from mid-December as well.
Nice.
So I'm thinking Mizzou's probably going to be like 1.5 or 2. If they're 2 or fewer, I'll be on them. I know Arkansas is playing really well, but I just like this Missouri team. I didn't back them last night because Bama and Mizzou are play-on teams for me that have been good to me all year. So I stayed. Actually, I bet Bama live, getting a good number, and didn't quite get there, unfortunately. But if Mizzou is 2 or fewer at Arkansas, I'll be on the Tigers.
Brian, big game in the O on Sunday as Creighton's going to take on Georgetown. They got through that murderer's row of Marquette, UConn, and St. John's 1 and 2. You're kind of hoping they had the opportunity to go 2 and 1 in that stretch, but now they take on a Hoyas team that they did lose to earlier in the year. Now this one's going to be at the Chi. Do you think Creighton gets back on track, or are there some little slips after what happened over the last 3 games?
No, I think they get back on track. Whether they cover or not, we'll see. I'm thinking Creighton will be 12-ish, maybe 13 if Sorber doesn't play. Thomas Sorber, the star freshman for Georgetown, who missed last night's game. I don't know what the chances are of him playing, but I think he's at least a 2-point difference to the line, maybe 3. So if he's back, maybe you get a single-digit number. But Creighton in big-time revenge mode is they got thumped in DC against the Hoyas. I would think Creighton will take care of business here, and if they're 10 or less, I'll probably be interested in Creighton.
And big win for Georgetown last night. Ed Cooley's mom had passed away. Super emotional against his former school. PV looked really good. You're right about Sorber. He does make a difference. Now, a game on the morning after Nebraska lays an egg against Penn State, but it doesn't knock them out of the tournament because of the bubble. But they have a chance to really help themselves. Michigan has to play Michigan State Friday night. Then they travel to Lincoln. Nebraska's finally back home. What do you think the line, or what did you make the line for Michigan, Nebraska Monday night?
I was thinking Michigan -1 or 2. If Nebraska is a home dog of like 3 or more, I might be interested in them. I don't know with a big guy if he's going to be back. I know he's missed 3 games in a row now. But Nebraska, obviously a poor performance last night, but they've been on the road for a while, and kind of a emotional comeback win on Sunday at Northwestern. So I'm going to give them a mulligan there. They've been playing well in general. I think Nebraska will have a good chance to win this game, especially if they get the big guy back.
Quick one here. I can't believe it. It's great because I was living in Florida in the Billy Donovan era when they were winning back-to-back titles. I think it's amazing that Florida basketball is number 2 in the country.
Feels good. It feels good. I think that the injury, the rash of injuries we've had the last couple of weeks is going to end up being a blessing in disguise, because Golden said last Friday that Condon was going to be out a week or 2. So I'm thinking we'll be back full strength in late February. And with the injuries, we got Handlocked in to take the red shirt off, giving us another 7-footer, and he's played pretty well the first 2 games. And then Klabzar, the European freshman who basically had not played, I think he'd only played in 2 SEC games, garbage minutes, just a couple of minutes in blowout. And he comes in against Vandy, makes a couple of key threes when Clayton was out. And then when Martin was out at Auburn, he went 3 of 3 from 3-point land. And so we now have him and Handlocked in the mix, and Condon will be back healthy. Martin is now back healthy. So I think Florida's injury rash has ended up being a good thing in the long haul.
Yeah, it's enjoyable to watch. B, as always, we appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, all. You have a good weekend as well.
See you,
Brian
Brian.
Edwards, Vegas. B. Edwards on Twitter, senior handicapper. Thank you, Mark. The game last night at the Crypto was the makeup game from the Fires. So that's why they're playing on a Wednesday night. Really, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. Because I've seen that game and I'm like, why would they stick LeBron? But, hey, why would they stick LaMelo Ball? Who, man, give that kid credit. He has balled out.
He's been doing well.
27, 5, and 6 last night.
There also was a report today thinking about him because apparently LeVar Ball had to have a limb amputated because of medical conditions. So hoping that everything's okay with him.
Damn, that's depressing.
I know, it's tough.
All right, we don't want to end on that note.
Sorry.
Tonight's the Four Nations, red, white, and blue.
Heck
USA.
Free bird, baby. Free bird. I want to win more than I can breathe. It is such a big game.
All right. Enjoy the day of sports. It's going to warm up.
There's baseball today.
We're going to be, and spring training baseball, 2 o'clock, MLB Network, Dodgers, Cubs.
Oh, my God.
Yep. Don't forget, and the weather's going to warm up. We're going to be tailgating Monday night before Nebraska, Michigan. We're all going to be down. We're going to be in the rail yard. We're going to be watching the Cube. We're going to be drinking beers and then storming the court.
That's going to be awesome.
I did not get the reciprocal enthusiasm for that part.
Sorry. I'm getting so angst right now for USA versus Canada. I'm just so excited.
All right. Well,
the hockey game too.
Take some Adderall. Crossover's coming up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6.